Heroes of the Storm has enabled me to pursue something that I love.
I really enjoy Heroes because it's just fast-paced. There's a bunch of different maps, so the game never gets stale.
It's very fast-paced from the beginning of the game to the end. You're constantly moving around the map and interacting with other heroes.
When I play Heroes of the Storm, I find that I can play the game like 8 hours a day, every single day, and I still find it fun and challenging. That's why I love it.
I grew up playing Warcraft 2 custom games, and just having that background and being able to play these characters that I've grown up playing. It's a wonderful kind of nostalgia just to be able to play these characters that I've always loved in a team brawler scenario.
I've played almost all the Blizzard games. Seeing like my favorite heroes fight against each other is definitely just like a great feeling to play, and it's never a dull moment.
I was like really into MOBAs, and I always thought it'd be cool to have Blizzard have a MOBA. So then Blizzard came out with this game, and it was kind of like a no-brainer for me. So I mean, I loved how short the games are and just like how cool the community is. That's been a big thing for me.
I love Heroes of the Storm because it's allowed me to establish like personal relationships that I now value.
It's really, I guess, like heartwarming to see like so many people like who support you, who support esports. Like it's a passion of mine, and it's like a passion of theirs too. And they like watch you because they love the game, they love esports. It's really amazing.
You know, everyone on the team wants to be the best in the world. That just means, you know, everything. That's why I play the game. I want to be the best, and it's extremely important to me.
And now, introducing the grand finals of the North American Heroes of the Storm Fall Regional. It's Murloc Geniuses versus Gale Force eSports.
The grand final here from the Heroes of the Storm North American Fall Regional. Murloc Geniuses will take on Gale Force eSports as we find out who will be taking that all-important spot, moving on forwards to BlizzCon here and claiming themselves to become the champion of North America. Let's start things off, boys, and we're having with Dunk and Jayhow on the couch with Murloc Geniuses, coming off the back of a 3-0 clean sweep against Vox Nihili and looking powerful.
Powerful. They look like the best team in North America right now, Carlaris. I mean, they are the only team that used Sanctification amazingly.
And then, of course, on the other side, we have Gale Force eSports, North American champion currently reigning, but it looks like their title might be up for debate here, Jay Howe.
Their title is a little up for debate, but they said it 2 months ago that their aspirations were not just the fall champions here in North America. They wanted to be BlizzCon champions. This is their first step to get there if they're going to make it.
Let's see if they are going to. They took a bit of a rough and rocky road throughout the tournament so far, not having the easiest time in Group B and not having the easiest time up against Naventic, to say the least. The Tracer, Crowan, came through for them during their semi-final.
Crowan absolutely came through for them in that finals, but I have to say it felt a bit like Tracer was their saving grace. But Murloc Geniuses knows that's coming now. They will not fall prey to the same trap. They're not going to build compositions that just fall over to a Tracer. They've seen Crowan play it, and they will deal with it.
You talk about dealing with it. I want to go back to something you said off camera. When we did the intro, you said they look like the best team in NA when you were referring to Murloc Geniuses. Why don't you tell people the truth of what you did say? Because you said they are the best team. You think they can take down Gale Force?
Absolutely.
100% confident. You can say that. Look me in the eye with 100% confidence. That's what you think.
They can take down Gale Force. Will they? I don't know. Looking at the group stage, I would say they looked the best in the group stage. They looked the best in the playoffs. No question. Their coordination with Heroics was amazing for NA, given this event, and it wasn't for Gale Force. I mean, in Gale Force, we saw them fall against Vox, and Murlocs crushed Vox. So I think that Murlocs has it.
All right then, that took an interesting turn. Okay, so let's. Of course, you can hashtag HGC and tweet us at Heroes Esports as well as at ESL Heroes here. Join in the discussion and make sure you get those predictions in as to who you think is going to win this grand final for the fall regional. Now, of course, Dunk has his favorites. I want to know who your favorites are, Jay Howe, going into this.
I don't know if I have a favorite. We talked about HGC right there. This crowd was lively when they did the intros. Yeah. I'm actually kind of curious if they were rooting for Gale Force or whether... Oh, I heard it.
Go on, keep going.
The crowd speaks for itself, but I do see Gale Force. You know, they had a really rocky first day, as Dunk pointed out.
Yeah.
They looked a lot better today, a lot better. They went up against Naventic. Of course you're going to go Game 5 against Naventic, who was considered the favorite coming into today. I think being able to have that quote-unquote practice in their first round means that they're going to be already hardened, ready to go. They didn't have an easy way to get here, and I think that's going to help them.
All right, let's get into it. Cursed Hollow will be our first game in this best of 5 of the grand finals, as Illidan and Falstad are going to be the first bands out, and Murloc Geniuses. Surprise, surprise, it's Zagara all the way, Dunk.
No surprises here. That's pretty much par for the course for Murloc Geniuses. Now, the Greymane is available. I would expect Gale Force to pick that up. It worked in their Tracer composition that they showed off. Tyrael also available. Those two have amazing synergy. But there's even the Uther that they can go for.
I think there's so much on the board. The diversity that we've seen out of Gale Force's heroic compositions that they've been able to do, some of them have looked phenomenal. Some of them have looked a little bit questionable. Leading off with the Uther here, I think it lends to a lot of flexibility. I'm curious as to what you were just talking about, whether Greymane is going to be that first pick to go with Uther there to be able to have that Divine Shield if necessary.
Greymane seems like the highest priority hero left to me. I mean, we saw them put so much value on the Illidan, fearless about picking that early, but it got banned out. Same with Falstad, but it got banned out. So the Greymane just seemed like the default choice to go to next if you're looking for that high impact range damage role.
My big question is, coming into this, I felt that maybe Murloc Genius's bans were going to be angled towards Illidan and Tracer all series long, unless something really strange comes along in terms of maps. Is that probably a potential here? Because if they do, those seem to be the playmakers of Gale Force Esports throughout their games when they've won.
Crowan seems to take these high-skill heroes. Now, a lot of people will look at Li Ming and they're like, oh, it's easy to do damage. But there's a huge difference between doing damage with Li Ming and then executing and making plays with Li Ming. That's what Crowan does. And he does it with Tracer as well, who is a very high-skilled hero. But we see Li Ming taken off the board as well as Tyrael. I love the Tyrael pickup here to deny it from Gale Force.
The Tyrael pickup looks fantastic here. Plus the Li Ming. Not only is the Li Ming a denial pick for Gale Force because Crowan is so reliant on that hero or Tracer, which I expect to see Murloc Geniuses ban out, but the Tyrael is amazing to protect from the Greymane.
If they don't ban out Tracer here, then you can expect Li Ming and Zagara to be in a little bit of trouble. I understand the Abathur ban. You don't want to deal with double Greymane. I would not be surprised at all to see Tracer picked up here. Do you think it's something that they pick up here? Obviously, I feel like it's going to be a safe pick if they want to hold on to it. But is it something they pick up early and threaten Murloc with, or do they try and hold it for their last pick?
they know that Murloc knows about it. So there's nothing saying, oh, we need to hide this, right, to last pick. Murloc knows it has to be coming since they left it open. So I think if you're Gale Force, it's either if we pick Tracer now, we give them the opportunity to counter it for sure, but we leave more flexibility for our other roles, perhaps another Warrior if they pick up one with Tracer, or if they want to go solo Warrior, that's an option too.
I'm really curious, obviously, with Li Ming on the other side, do they look at maybe going, if they don't go Tracer, if they opt to go with Tracer, do they try and go with something like an Burbank to help defend against a lot of that poke that comes in from Li Ming? Or will we see? We haven't seen the best of ETC play this weekend. I think Burbank's there, Muradin's there, which B-Kid plays really well. I'm actually really curious to see what Gale Force does here with their Warrior pickup.
Yeah, ETC has looked very underwhelming, honestly, all weekend. We've seen teams split apart and make advantage of the fact that ETC doesn't bring that bruiser damage potential. The only team we've actually seen run really successful ETC is Murloc Geniuses, who both used it for pickoffs and with big mosh pits. But Gale Force does go ahead and pick out the Tracer like we were expecting.
I'm almost curious if they might opt to, and this is something we see some teams run, is a Tassadar. Something like a Tassadar to be able to supplement the shields. The thing about that is that you're pretty much all in at that point with Greymane, with Tracer. It makes it really hard. I really feel they need some type of wave clear to be able to supplement some of this. I don't know if Sylvanas really fits into this comp. It could. Kael'thas still on the board. I think there's a lot of ways that Gale Force can go with this, and whether they pick up their Warrior pick here or not is going to be very telling as far as what their mindset is.
My primary concern, if they were to have gone Tassadar, would be that they're really damage light and vulnerable to being split up. We've seen Murloc Geniuses excel with Zeratul, so I would be really concerned about building a composition that relies on that Tassadar protecting the Tracer, because Zeratul can split someone out with Void Prison, and that was something Murloc Geniuses could have gone for. Instead, Gale Force goes for that Thrall, Bruiser, anti-engage potential. I think that leaves the composition wide open in terms of what they can end up last picking. We know they need a Warrior, but will it be that ETC? Will it be that Muradin? Are they going to commit to the dive fully? Well, that's still to be determined.
My question is for Murloc Geniuses, don't they need like a really strong front line going up against a Greymane, Tracer, Thrall that are going to cause your backline quite a lot of pain if you do not have a wall in front of it?
It's a lot of heavy engagement. Can you imagine a Sundering hitting you and Greymane just going in on whatever target he wants? And with Li Ming and Zagara, there's that Brightwing pickup that you were just talking about, the potential Emerald Wind. Do you think that could be a pickup here for Murloc Geniuses as he supplement, as Kalaris was just talking about? They're going double Warrior here.
Absolutely. I love the ETC pickup here. Brightwing, also amazing. I am concerned Brightwing's going to have a hard time keeping that Li Ming alive, though, against how much damage is coming out from Gale Force eSports. But the Emerald Winds can be clutch here. I mean, we've just seen how amazing they are at disrupting teamfights, preventing engages. So when Tracer goes in to dive the backline, Poly her, Emerald Wind the Uther out, can't save the Tracer, and it is pretty easy for a Li Ming Zagara to pop a Tracer in the backline.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we might potentially see is in a 5-on-5, it's much more difficult to deal with Tracer, but if Tracer's trying to get that poke oriented, you get the Poly and then power slide onto it, it makes for an easy target for Li Ming. So I like what you're saying there, but we do see Johanna, the last pick up here, a very safe pick, to say the least, to be able to deny tributes and to just control an area.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like they're going to have to worry too much about like any true dive potential from Murloc Geniuses. So Johanna just to disrupt the front lines, cause them some
Mosh
problems.
pit potentially, stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll actually see the Falling Sword here. I mean, it could be good to get onto the Zagara. She can't really escape from it. It can dodge Maw if that's the heroic they go for. And in addition to that, the entire Gale Force team really can just run into Murloc Geniuses. They don't have the best to deal with that other than Mosh Pit.
You know what I love when we look at a picture like this is when I see Michael Udall there in the middle and Akaface on the right, or to our right, is they look so confident. Every game that they step into, they never look scared of any team in this region. And I love what they bring to the table. They have, we talked about it yesterday, a lot of playmakers. But I think if they stay within themselves, they look really good.
At the same time, Cawthon looks hyper-focused here. And we know he's going to be playing that Zagara. I have so much faith in Cawthon Zagara. It has pretty much won them every game, or at least gotten them the level lead so they can excel and truly show off just how much synergy they have.
It's funny because Cawthon, look, out of all of the players on the stage, is probably the one with the most esports experience, and that's going way back into StarCraft days. So whenever we get to see him on that Zagara, you know, he's able to just kind of really keep track of the minimap very, very well, and able to kind of, you know, solidify the team as a whole.
The guy there in the second chair from the left, that's Fury. He just was dropped about 4 weeks ago by Gale Force eSports. He might be looking for a little bit of revenge.
Indeed, against his previous team as B-Kid came in to replace him there after that was the case. So we are almost ready to get into game number 1 here of the grand finals between Murloc Geniuses and Gale Force eSports. The previous champions of the North American region go up against the true challenger who is on a rampage here in the Fall Regional number 1. We're heading over to Gillyweed and Dread to bring you the action from the grand finals.
Thank you, Kyle Laris. That's right, Gilly here with Dreadnought for the last best of 5 of the weekend. The grand finals between Murloc Geniuses and Gale Force eSports. Dread, it has been a weekend of upsets, of surprises, and maybe not as big as the fact that it's not Naventic and Gale Force as we thought it might be in the finals here. Instead, Murloc Geniuses have a chance to take out Gale Force.
It's been a weekend of hype and heartbreak for a lot of the teams here, and we are now going to see heavy favor there for Gale Force eSports. I blame the crowd, they're biased. They tweeted all that in. But you guys at home can give your input as well. Murloc Geniuses have quite a lot of hype behind them, and a big storyline is exactly that. That Fury was removed from this team in between the last regional before they performed at the world stage, and now a little bit of banter going back and forth, but damage as well going back and forth. Caterpillar overextending, they're already going to go down here 30 seconds into the game. Gale Force getting first blood.
First blood for Gale Force, but there will be many battles. Of course, this is a best of 5 for the grand finals. Our first best of 5 was very back and forth between Gale Force and Naventic, but Murloc Geniuses showing such dominance versus Fox Nahili, getting a 3-0 in the last one. We'll see if they can continue that momentum here versus Gale Force. And we're starting to see them spread out into the lanes and get ready for the first tribute phase.
Yeah, the laning phase here in the upper half, a bit of a skirmish going on to Michael. He is in a 3 versus 1, but he's being patient with this. He's not going to be in too bad of a spot. Thun will get a reasonable amount of damage, though, considering the fact that he's Zagara and such a dominant laner. Not going with the Infest, though, at level 1, so he won't have as much value out of the Siege, but his E will be doing a good amount of damage here. Rafflecopter on the Greymane, we were talking about this in the draft. We're yet to see him play that this entire tournament.
Right. Usually, I think we have been seeing Michael Udall primarily as the Greymane player for the team. And to be honest, there have been some troubles with positioning for Rafflecopter in the past. But they've been able to get to this point. We'll see how he's able to do with him since he is such a very squishy character. And of course, you have to always be conscious of when you actually can go into the Worgen form. That gives you extra damage, but it's very risk versus reward.
Yeah, Gale Force has really committed their composition to be identical to what they were able to take Naventic down with, was just that not only just the Tracer, but it's an entire composition committed to being very, very aggressive in their commitment here. The Sunder mixed with go for the throat, I'm guessing is going to be the option, and Tracer all need to be on the very same page if they're going to stand a chance. Otherwise, Tyrael might be able to turn that fight with a good sanctification.
Right, they have a lot of potential for flanks, definitely. A flank Sunder that we a lot of times see, as well as a flank from Tracer if somebody gets left in the backline, somebody like Li Ming, somebody like Zagara too. But June on Brightwing, not only do they have a Tyrael to help with sanctification, they have mosh pits to ETC can face mount people away to save any of his teammates, but June even probably could get the Emerald Wind again if he wants to. So if they start to get surrounded, he can push them away and let them reset.
Yeah, and already with Greymane's early game power spike that we see, Raffle was able to pick up the Night Camp, which is going to be timed with the map objective here. I really enjoy this, forcing a possible poor rotation on the side of Murloc Geniuses. Zag has made the rotation in order to be able to deal with that because their wave clear is the most dominant. Uther and Gale Force is going to be winning when it comes to the rotation to this tribute, and it's all going to come down to the fight. I really feel like the early game skirmishing has to go over to Gale Force. They really do have an absolutely phenomenal dance here around each other with Crowan, and then this squishy backline like Psalm there, and the bomb coming out, he's going to go down, and a cap there from Mike Udall as June is going under as well here, so already 3 kills for nothing, a tribute. Gale Force here setting the tempo.
But the experience is dead even, which shows Murloc Geniuses have been really good about that split soak, and the minute that Cawthon saw all of the damage dealers for Gale Force up top, he can rotate in and start throwing down his roaches and everything else in the bottom. And already you can see tons of creep tumors straight down in a line. Again, making us think that we'll see Cawthon pick up the Nidus network. We haven't really seen very much else from him at this point.
He's been very influential with it. Probably the only player here at this tournament so far that is proven it's worth it, or at least kind of given it some value when it is going to be picked up. Also at level 7 for the Greymane, we do see the fact that he's gone with the Wizened Duelist, going to be trying to stack here. Divine Shield will be able to enable him to get a little bit more aggressive there without risking a death, and it's going to complement that dive style play that they have here as a group. It's going to be interesting to see what heroics we see some of these players pick up as a second tribute now on the bottom half, Gilly.
He's the only one who will be stacking 2. Tracer did not go for untouchable. Som is in trouble and he will get taken out. That is such a great pick up for them just as this tribute is starting to spawn. They're going to body Fury out of this too. It won't be Curse Point yet. Cattle and June almost taking out Michael Udall, but still with the positioning, them able to force their way in here. They're going to steal a tribute that should have been fairly easy for Murlocs to pick up because of its positioning.
Yeah, we are yet to see Murloc Geniuses provide any pressure on the map or have success in the rotations. Right now, they don't seem to be on near the same page that we see Gale Force, showing that they may have the hunger here. You know the Fury is looking to try and make something happen. A lot of frustration here between these two teams and some of the rivalries that may be forming as we move on. Crowan, though, getting caught out there. He's going to be recalling and getting away there. Great play from him, showing why he is an absolute monster on that Tracer.
And Akaface, even with just the end of Holy Radiance, giving him some heals back up. It'll be very pivotal as they're able to keep him up and keep up the aggression throughout. But the experience from these teams, even though Gale Force has been the only one to be able to get any kills, still very, very even. With Curse Point here for Gale Force. So Murloc Geniuses will have to contest this next tribute if they don't want to just give up a curse.
I really would like to see Murloc Geniuses worry a bit more about some of the map objective pressure. They haven't gone for Knights, they haven't gone for Giants, and typically that's really, it's not that big of a deal. They're dealing with it, right? They haven't gained or lost too much of experience either way, but Gale Force eSports doesn't have necessarily the best wave player, especially with the Tracer Uther not too dominant on their own. Fury getting caught out here, it burns his Q, will be able to get away, and a tribute is now spawning in position for Gale Force eSports. He's not going to have the tap, and Brightwing's not the best healer here, so Fury's going to go into this fight possibly a little bit low, and it looks like the teams are more concerned about hitting 10.
Zagara has come up too. They finally brought him up, and that is the full power. Akaface getting pushed away, but ETC has already been taken out. It's a 1-for-1 here, but this is Uther who went down. He does have some heals. Sanctification used pretty early on, and before they had really even taken very much damage now. No further kills in this fight, but still, Murloc Geniuses are pushed away from this tribute. Is Som gonna get out of here?
Got it. Solom is going to be out of that situation. Good for him. 10 advantage was picked up for Murloc Geniuses, but they still lost the tribute. That is not a pretty sign for them. You see June moving in, trying to get the Q out. He will be able to get a delay there onto Rafflecopter, but it might cost him his life here as he is trying to get away. Polymorph coming out. Doesn't matter. He is going to be removed here. Fairy Dragon down, and a curse achieved here for Gale Force.
They get the curse and another kill. Murloc's really, you could see June was like, should I go for this? Should I try for the delay? And ended up paying for it by giving another kill to Gale Force. But it is Brightwing. She can phase shift back in. Li Ming, though, she can't do that. And she was part of the pivotal defense for Murloc Geniuses. This is a free curse for Gale Force. They don't have to worry about any tribute, so they will have to worry about Michael Udall, who should go down here. There he will go.
That is not worth at all. Cattle ended up burning his heroic there in order to get one kill on the map. Meanwhile, he lost the fort in the mid lane. It's just such a long cooldown, 1 minute and 20 seconds. You can tell he voluntarily decided to do that, but personally, I feel like he's going to see his team be in a very game-changing fight within that duration of time here. To where he's going to wish he had that cooldown up. If not, then I guess he's going to be able to get away with it, but typically you want to have more patience with the mosh pit. Hitting one person's not always that bad, but when the death timers are so short, is it going to be that value? As we see now, Thrall and the rest of Gale Force are moving up to secure the third fort of the game. They're not going to have that mosh pit available.
I think Cawthon also is probably already not super happy because he did end up going with Devouring Maw. Yes, they can combo that with the mosh pit if they get the right setup. But, and here comes June with the Emerald Wind. He gets stuck by the pulse bomb, and Brightwing get taken out. Sanctification used, but nobody else was even in there, and they're just going to have to back off. They lose June. Perhaps a little bit of tournament jitters coming in for this first game for these guys.
I mean, you can call it tournament jitters, but Crowan did the exact same thing to Kenma. Absolutely bodied any Brightwing that gets in his path. Emerald Wind, Ice Block, he doesn't care. You are going to die here if you don't burn too many resources. Just try and secure the kill onto him. So Gale Force now is setting the tempo, having 3 forts up, a level lead, and again, moving more with the map pressure around the map.
Yeah, I just don't know if they can rely on an Emerald Wind to start the fight like that.
No, they can't. Personally, I think that's the last thing that they want to be using. Ideally, they want to open with a Sanctification Polymorph style play and then using the split with the Mosh Emerald wherever they can into a fight. Even the Maw, they have so many zoning tools that opening with the Emerald, out of all of them, it seems to be the worst.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they did get Maw, though, because Gale Force has been really, really good about clearing up the creep for the most part. They have people who excel at it, doing it pretty easily, and with Burning Rage as a potential for Johanna, which she did pick up at 13, it gets even easier. So they do have that ability to zone people away. We'll see if they can do it right here as Cattle starts to go in. Recall was used. Crowan is low, gets hit by Infested Drop. Fury is already down. He blows up on the back line, but still Murloc Geniuses cannot get a kill.
Yeah, eyes in the dark, being able to get away from that situation. Great cleanse coming out from Akaface as well, stopping the chain CC that we saw was coming into play against Crowan, allowing him to get that recall out. So now Gale Force again just, I mean, right now it's 9-2 in terms of the kill, the level lead here, and it just seems like they're the aggressors. Look at, they're moving through their camp. Screw the objectives, Giants on top, we don't care. We're just gonna get rid of any vision that you might have. Start working towards your boss already. Mosh Pit's available, Sanctification is available, as well as Emerald Wind and Maw. They do not want boss fights. The last thing Gale Force wants in this situation is boss fights. They have no boss control comparative to Murlocs.
Right, they just have Sundering, which does not compare at all with Emerald Wind. Sanctification, Holy Ground is 16 to Mosh. They're gonna just back off of that. They know that they are controlling this game. They've taken out all of the forts. They've eliminated a lot of the split push power for Cawthon, which wasn't really going for as much again without Nidus Network, but still is a nice win to know that the lanes are all pushed towards your opponents.
So this is going to mean that Gale Force manages to pick up a tribute and a boss here. No rotation to try and get a delay, maybe make a big play on the side of Murloc Geniuses. Murloc's boss has a fort that is going to be moving into, while Gale Force has no fort for theirs, so they'll gain a lot more value out of that. Definitely forcing a drawn rotation here for Murloc Geniuses. I expect them, I'm a bit surprised actually that Raffle and friends are now being aggressive in this situation. Yes, your boss is going to win this trade, but I feel like getting 16, taking that advantage, getting the next curse threat is far more valuable here than risking a fight on even talent tiers on the upper half of the map, because last team fight, they didn't have Mosh because he took that trade 1-0 early. That is not going to be the case here, and a fight here is very bold.
It is bold. We'll see if Murloc Geniuses can actually get set up for that. Again, Gale Force really wants to make sure they're not grouping up too much. There goes the pull on Cattle. He is there. If they could take him out, of course, that would be wonderful, so they don't have to worry about the Mosh, but they don't just yet. You can see Gale Force running away. They know that's the time that Murlocs want to get into a fight. They want to force something before Gale Force gets a talent advantage again, but they might be able to here at the tribute.
Yeah, nobody's going to get the zone quite yet. You see Akaface getting a 4-man dismount will not be enough to be able to stop that delay. But now these teams want to fight in these chokeholds. 16 still not obtained here for Gale Force Esports. The chokehold fight, normally I would like to say goes in value or in favor of the Sunder, but when you consider the fact that there's Mosh Pit, and Emerald Wind, you know that Gale Force does not want that fight. They're backing out, saying we want the 16. That's not an area we want to take that. And for now, gonna play the patient game, worry about the trips.
Look at the Wizened Duelist. I think we're about halfway through stacks, which means about 15-ish% bonus damage.
18. He's got 6 stacks.
Nice. So that's going to do some work once Raffle starts getting into the back line.
Yeah, he can rip that Li Ming and Brightwing really apart. Even the Zag, everybody is very vulnerable to the amount of damage output that he's going to have. And at 16, by being able to pick up the Relentless Predator, having that ability to just not be stun blocked to death, and that also opens up cooldowns from Akaface to be able to be used on Crowan. Because you can see, Murloc's 3 times has tried to one-shot Crowan just by stun locking him, but Aka's always there to get the cleanse for him, allow him to get the recall, and then somehow, because he's Crowan and he does Crowan things, survives.
Just does Crowan things.
You know, it's just
it
hashtag
works.
just Crowan things, you know? Anytime I make a big highlight in solo queue, that's what I'm gonna do. Just Crowan things.
It makes sense. We should definitely try to get that trending. Again, Brightwing has Ice Block. Still very scared for the Brightwing, especially since you're really just relying on that, as well as the shielding and sanctification from Tyrael to try to get 1 kill so that Li Ming can start to reset upon reset, as they really have yet to fully execute their team composition the way that they would like to.
And we do see the Ice Block as an attempt to be able to survive the damage that Crowan's output onto June this game. We'll see if he's going to gain more value than we saw. Kenma also taking that talent as a kind of a response. 16 has been achieved. Giants pushing for both teams in opposing lanes here, and it seems like the battle for the poke right now is going in favor of Murloc Geniuses as they aggress forward. Crowan's been completely isolated here and hasn't really done anything, not able to mount up for some time. Murlocs want to take this fight in the next couple of seconds.
Trying to hop in. They also have Criterize on Polymorph too, so Polymorph will be there available to make someone more vulnerable to damage. There's the Sundering, throws everybody in. Instantly, everyone from Gale Force responds. Big 5-man sanctification and the Emerald Wind to push everyone from Gale Force back, and they do survive.
Yeah, Wave of Force is still available. Good holy ground to get the split, but now Fury looks like he's going to be the one blocked out there. A blind Feral Heart is going to land there. Raffle trying to zone the rest of the team as Fury will be falling down. His passive's going to come into play. 1-for-1 though. Mike Udall is now in a rough spot.
Ooh.
He's going to be able to survive, so now it's a 4-4 here, Gilly.
And that was Greymane. They reset the stack, so important, and Murloc Geniuses starting to heal back up. Here comes Crowan, and Cattle was watching for it. He forces Crowan to get back.
Yeah, and they're really doing a great job. We need to keep in mind that as B-Kid is slowly falling, Udall trying to get a delay. They cannot take this fight any longer. Akaface now is going to be pinned into this chokehold. He will not survive either. Great body block from Kathan, but Giants pushing top the entire TAM, gaining a large amount of value as well here because nobody went there to go clear this up. So a major tempo swing here for Murloc Geniuses.
There's similarly a bruiser push in the mid that has started to work down the keep there. And that is one nice thing for Gale Force, but that finally we saw the execution and the ability to stay safe for Murloc Geniuses through that very hard engage from Gale Force and being able to reset the Wizen Duelist stacks. That has to feel so good because those were starting to become a problem.
The next 2 minutes for Murloc Geniuses are really going to decide if they are a great team. Bosses are going to be spawning at almost identical timing for both of these teams, only a couple seconds apart here. Tribute could spawn in a bit, and when it does, if nobody opens up with a boss trade right out the gates, they have the global. Now they choose what is the major play. They've already postured, they decide we want to go with the boss. Nobody's going to get that delay, but they can make that early rotation, send Brightwing to be able to clear this up on their own, get the teleport later. I really would have liked to see them try and bite off a bit more than they're going with because now they're trading bosses and a tribute for free.
Yeah, and that does allow Gale Force the potential to win a team fight, take a couple of people out before the next tribute, and get a curse.
Gale Force not starting the boss instantly, sending one person to get the cap. They were very fearful of the rotation coming out from Murloc Geniuses, so that's going to be a free boss moving into a double boss play potentially here. Instead, actually posturing towards mid fort instead. I don't know how I feel about this decision. If they end up getting the curse, I think this is very optimistic from Murloc. They're leaving the boss up in the idea that if they are successful in the next team fight, they can get the curse, they can get a boss, and that is a far bigger play, but that's having a lot of confidence that you're going to do well in that next team fight.
But we talked about it, right? If there's any potential that Murloc Geniuses are starting to come in to get this boss, don't they have to leave because of all the heroics that Murloc Geniuses have? They have Emerald Wind, they have Mosh Pit, they have Maw. What do you possibly do?
My mind's blown by Gale Force committing that many resources to these rotations. They just got out-rotated so hard to allow that double boss for like free, no harassment, and it's a curse. That was a very big misplay on their part. They aren't even abusing the global. Really, it just... Gale Force was like, do we go mid, do we go bottom? They baited them through the mid fort that they're going to lose no matter what. Could have gotten that boss eliminated and then ended up getting harassed with Crow in there. But now they have a lot of things sieging against them, Gilly.
Yeah, Murloc Geniuses are here in the mid. They know that everyone from Gale Force wants to respond to the boss, so they put them in a choose how you lose situation where they can't deal with both of these threats at once. So they'll start sieging up here at the mid keep. The boss has moved on and taken some chunk of the top keep down. But Gale Force, importantly, has not lost a keep yet through this curse. There's still 30-some seconds left, but they no longer have to worry about losing a boss to Murloc Geniuses.
Yeah, that is a nice positive side to this as 30 seconds are ticking down onto the curse. 20 is going to be achieved now for Murloc Geniuses. Expect them to get a minimum of one keep here as they start getting aggressive. Gale Force is just trying to soak the side lanes as best they can. June will teleport in here, get the shield onto the Psalm, and one keep now first of the game. Even though the kills sit 10-5 in favor of Gale Force, experience and structures say a different story here.
It shows that you win off of taking out the core, off of taking out structures. Fury diving in pretty deep. Uses Holy Ground though, he knows he can get back out of that. This will be potentially a second keep here, although Fury's getting pretty low.
Oh man, that was really close to being ugly. Psalm just saved Mike Udall really badly. The Wave of Force put him out of the range for the Holy Ground to gain max value in that chokehold. They would have drawn so many resources from Akaface, but now it looks like Gale Force is the one who wants to try and get the fight. They have level 10 Rafflecopters in position along with Crowan. Udall is not in a flanking position yet. Cattle does miss his stride as they move in here aggressively. It looks like it's going to be a possibly game-winning fight here, Gilly.
Here we go, Sundering is out, throws a bunch of people in, but a 4-man sanctification, and again, Rafflecopters on the other side of the team fight. The Divine Shield has been burnt. B-Kid's indestructible has to be used to keep him alive. This Cattle Pillar is falling. Mob pulls in.
Wave of Force again.
One. There is the boom. Johanna goes down. The resets have started. Some low on mana, though. They're trying to chase them down. Everyone pretty low for Gale Force.
Yeah, they're on the retreat here. It is 5 versus 4. Udall is now sending himself as a sacrifice, actually getting the blink out. Kattle's not able to hit him with the power slide. And so what was a very ugly situation here was only the death of a Johanna. That was insanely aggressive calls here from Rafflecopter. He just blind eyes in the dark backlined onto that leap, or onto the right wing, which forced Akaface to open with, oh my gosh, Udall getting caught out here. Good cleanse. He's going to be able to survive this situation. No, he's not actually. 7 health, and then he does fall down. So now 2 people are dead here, and it looks like Murloc Geniuses might want to move on to core.
Pretty low on mana, at least Psalm is. And Fury is too. Cawthon's out.
I like it.
Yeah, it'd be pretty risky. It's, again, their game to lose. They are in full control of this. The only great thing for Gale Force is they have only 1 tribute away from getting a curse of their own, but they have lost 2 keeps, a long fight from Murloc Geniuses around a tribute, around a boss point, is going to be so detrimental for Gale Force because they will have 2 lanes close together that will be having catapults push in.
Gale Force eSports needs to hold their composure here with the 2 keep down. They have the potential over the next curse, and the bosses aren't going to be spawning for some time. Top is in 1:20, 35 seconds on the bottom half here. Again, they have 0 boss control in this situation. So the curse is really their only saving grace. They need to make sure that they secure that because they can't do that so much so when it comes to the boss situation, especially with level 20 Li Ming. It gets even worse with the repulsion coming into play. There's almost 0 chance that they have it here. Tribute now spawning, great position here for Gale Force, also having the vision to understand if there's going to be a flank. Raffle, you see moving aggressively. Peekaboo will sniff him out, won't be able to get a flank as Udall is trying to do the same, and we saw last time he tried this, he tried to get a flank with a Sunder and it didn't work out so well for his team, Gilly.
June also has continuous wins, so now somebody getting stuck on the other side for their team for Gale Force, on the other side of Murloc Geniuses, they're going to be gone for forever. They will be down, and that also increases his healing too, so that's really helping. Here they come with the Blessed Shield. Psalm gets out of trouble. There is a Sanctification and a mob, but Rafflecopter is already eliminated, and look at, there it is, the continuous wins. Repulsion pulling back the members of Gale Force. Divine Shield though, and Li Ming has been taken out. They've somehow kept Michael Udall alive, but not for forever. He goes down. Pro-An is so low, as are the rest of Gale Force, and this should be it. They are trying to bring down the rest of the members. Yeah, 60 and falling, Dread.
So this is because I didn't get to bring this up because this fight happened so quickly, and you had a really good point, is that there was 2 camps pushing, 1 through mid and 1 through top, which are the lanes that are losing the keeps. There was no reason Murlocs even needed to take that fight. You saw they were waiting around, which is why you saw an absurdly desperate attempt to try and force the fight on the side of Gale Force eSports. They realized this is now or nothing. Turns out the fight wasn't successful, and the odds still remain the same whether or not they acted or not. So Murloc Geniuses is going to take game number 1 here, but our panelists probably have a lot of talking points in that match, so let's hear what they had to say about it.
Thank you very much, guys. All right, wow. What a game to start off our grand finals here. Murloc Geniuses coming out on top. It didn't look completely clean cut for them, though. Gale Force eSports had a start or whatever, but then as the game progresses, the amount of control Murloc Geniuses was able to insert was quite strong.
Yeah, the early game was difficult for Murloc Geniuses. I will admit that. The Tracer did a lot of work catching people on rotations, getting good skirmishes, early kills, very impactful. But once it got past level 10 into the late game teamfight phase, Murloc Geniuses just crushed.
I mean, we talked about it beforehand. We were sitting up here. We like to discuss the games as much as everybody else, and that was exactly what we saw. They got a lot of early picks with Tracer, and as you pointed out, there was so much that went wrong after level 10, but here was, some of the early aggression. As we saw, they were picking on June on Brightwing early.
Absolutely. In the early game, June did not know how to deal with this Tracer. In this fight especially, he got absolutely blown up before the Sanctification could even come out. But what really turned it around for them later in the game is that they realized they needed a Sanctification earlier to protect their backline. In this fight, you saw an amazing Sunder start the fight off, but the Sanct came out just in time. So even though the Tyrael died, Murloc Geniuses was able to hold control of this point, and this was really kind of the momentum swing for the game.
I mean, there was so much that we could look at with Tyrael. There was a huge Sanctification that we saw earlier. It just pretty much saved the game. It allowed to keep from the pick. We saw a beautiful Sundering come out from Michael Udall. They just weren't able to capitalize. So it was a lot of missed opportunities late in the game, just not enough of that last little oomph to come out from Gale Force.
Yeah, and once we saw the triple Emerald Wind, it was so backbreaking for Gale Force's composition. They couldn't ever get into targets. I mean, Moshpit got entirely wasted in the last team fight of the game, but it just didn't matter because Greymane got isolated so far from Uther, he couldn't even get the Divine Shield off.
And of course, when you get level 20 on Li Ming, when you've got repulsion and things like that, you saw it in that final fight, just how quickly Thrall was in a safe place and then a scary place. It wasn't good.
It was definitely tough. I mean, the late game definitely favored Murloc Geniuses there. This is, I mean, I said it as soon as Jake and I ended. I said, this could be fireworks. And that game number 1 shows that this is one heck of a series we have on our hands, Dunk.
They looked so closely matched. I'm actually really happy with this. GFE went for the Tracer. It felt like their ace in the hole. And then Murloc stuffed it. I mean, yeah, they took some losses, but they got there in the end. And, I mean, if that was all GFE had to throw at Murlocs, I mean...
It's not about how you start, it's how you finish.
Maybe. Conquer the Tracer. You've done well so far. So let's see if they're able to do that again. Our next map is going to be Sky Temple here. And if GFE wants to kind of go down a similar road to try and kind of defeat Murloc Geniuses, might not work out. I mean, what you were saying, Dunk, about Murloc Geniuses coming in and them being your clean favorite, them winning that game after GFE had a pretty good start to things. It could spell doom here for our current reigning North American champions if they're not careful.
I don't expect GFE to fall apart yet. Yeah, their pocket pick, the Tracer, it did get beaten. But they have been playing a long time. They know they can still play standard. So I expect in this next match, Gale Force will play without the Tracer and try and beat Murlocs in a normal game.
When you say normal game, the thing is they took Li Ming away from it. They picked up an early Li Ming and Zagara, basically baited out that Tracer, and at times it looked shaky. I'm curious if they still have the same type of confidence. After what they saw, they were able to pick up with it. That late Tyrael pick with the ETC really seemed to be their saving grace to protect a lot of what they were trying to accomplish against Gale Force.
All right, we're going into the draft for game number 2. GFE will open up with a Tyrael first pick. I'm so glad this is the day and age. Tyrael first picks. Oh, I'm a happy guy.
Finally, it feels like the teams are giving Tyrael the respect he deserves. Tyrael was amazing last game. He really was. So Gale Force realizing that, first picking it over all the other options available.
When we look at Tyrael in particular, it was something we talked about when we look at Murloc Genius's roster. They have Fury, who could be easily the best tank in NA. They also have Caterpillar, who used to main the warrior tank role, and now he gets to play the off role and be a lot more flexible, and that's why I love Murloc Genius's roster when they want to opt to go with that double warrior front line.
And overall, what we saw there in terms of the bans was the ban on Zagara first against Murloc Geniuses. So I would say a lot of respect coming out there as well.
Respect, Ben, for sure. Gale Force, first game, they're like, all right, you get your Zagara, we get our Tracer, we'll see who wins. That's totally reasonable. Going forward, they don't want to have to deal with that again.
Doug, based on your experiences, now there's a lot that develops throughout a tournament and throughout the meta between two teams in particular, especially when you get to the big stage here. When you get to the point to where you're having to ban away what the team wants to do, does it tend to hinder what you want to do as well? And where does your confidence lie in that?
Sometimes it can be a big problem. If you get rocked by something in game 1 and you don't know how to deal with it, you can throw your whole draft sideways because all of a sudden you're tunnel visioned on denying one thing and you don't look at the bigger picture. I don't think that's going to happen to Gale Force here. It seems to me that since Zagara was so close to the ban tier anyway, they're going to be able to adjust to that and still be fine. Now what I do like is the Kerrigan pick from Murlocs. That's a really high power pick. It seems risky though this early in the draft.
I'm really curious, obviously with Tyrael being picked up, we saw no hesitation from Michael Udall to go ahead and pick up Illidan. He feels very comfortable on that hero. I wonder if we might be seeing some type of dive comp come out. Obviously an early Uther pickup. This is something that we saw a lot of in the Korean region to where it enables Greymane, except Greymane and Kerrigan on the other side, that is a scary dive comp. So I'm curious what Gale Force's thought process is. They don't want to pick too many squishy heroes early, especially when they're staring down the barrel of that combo there.
What I would really like to see from Gale Force is a Calamity-intended Li Ming to follow up on that dive, and then in the late rotation, pick up the Illidan. Because right now they have all of the setup for Illidan. They have Uther and Tyrael to keep it alive. Pretty much any melee hero you pick is going to be fire when it gets in that backline of Murloc Geniuses, and Greymane's not going to be that impactful when he has to wait out a Divine Shield and a Sanctification before going for the throw.
Right. Now, obviously we have to wait through the second ban phase, but one of the more popular things that we used to see before this double warrior meta was kind of like a Tassadar to help supplement to give the shields. Does that lend, or do you think the new meta has kind of changed that type of strategy that we traditionally would have seen 2 or 3 months ago?
The Tassadar composition definitely works. It really does. It's fantastic. It's great with Illidan, but we do see the Illidan banned out.
Respect.
So I absolutely respect ban there against Michael Udall. His Illidan was absolutely critical for winning earlier matches against Naventic, and that respect ban makes total sense to me. They already have their own melee assassin, so it's not like they're banning themselves out of choices in a role, so just solid all around. Now, Gale Force going with the Abathur ban instead of opting for maybe the Rhaegar deny.
Sure, it's a smart ban on the side of the Illidan, because obviously now Crowan has his Li Ming, not likely to go down the Tracer route. You wouldn't really have to ban that anyway. It's very unlikely they'd use them in synergy with one another, right? Or
I agree. The only person we've seen play Tracer is Crowan.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expect both Li Ming and Tracer in the same game, although if Gale Force has been practicing those two together, it could be a nice curveball.
Really curious what Murloc is going to do here, whether we're going to see that double warrior setup. Now, here they can easily go with any warrior that they want. It's just a matter of, do they go with the warrior that they want to show that Fury would likely play, or is it something that we might see? And that's definitely a Fury pick right there, I think, when we look at Johanna. Again, Caterpillar does have the flexibility, but more importantly, Gale Force. This is a map that lends towards somebody like Zeratul to have that open area to use that Void Prison. It's a hero that Michael Udall is known to play. If you have a full dive comp with somebody like Kerrigan and Greymane and you try and isolate the back, it does work. Obviously, Rhaegar position a little bit different. I'm kind of curious if that's in the wheelhouse right now for Gale Force, but we're about to find out with their last two picks. Never mind.
Sonya. Ooh, looking to contest the front line instead of going for that dive that you were talking about. I actually like that pick a lot because it's going to give them so much control over the front of the fight. In the mid to late game, Sonya absolutely bodies Kerrigan when you're in the standoff phase of the battle. So now I think with that Sonya pick, you've gotten so much late game control on Gale Force's side with the Sanctification, the Li Ming Mirror Ball at 16. You can't win a late game fight as Murloc Geniuses, so they need to get an advantage with Kerrigan, and Tassadar is going to be great to shut that down.
I was going to say, like, something that stands out a lot is like the idea of Super Sonya, and normally you see it with a Tassadar, but she already had Uther and Tyrael with her to go into the front and keep us solidified, never mind having a Tassadar as well, so this is truly God Sonya.
I feel it came down to two picks there because they had to fill out Rafflecopter. It was either going to be a Sylvanas or a Tassadar. They're opting for a little bit more protection. As Dunk said, once they hit 16, that mirror ball, if Crowan lands the shots that we know he can land, that's a big chunk of damage. But staring down the other side is Tychus looking at that double warrior front line.
Tychus just does not instill me with the same amount of faith as Cawthon Lux Zagara, for example. This draft, to me, feels like Gale Force got a really sweet composition.
And also, it's not necessarily the two tankiest of tanks, right? They don't have the higher health pools that Tychus is going to be able to chew through. Of course, he's still a very good pick in this regard, but some of the utilities lost there slightly, I suppose.
The fact that we see Caterpillar on that Tychus gives me a little bit more faith. I think anybody else right now playing Tychus in NA is a little bit questionable. Caterpillar, he's shown a strong Tychus, I think, throughout the few days here.
His Tychus definitely is one of the ones that stood out. A lot of the times in draft, Tychus would get questioned, and sometimes it didn't look that good. And Caterpillar has said, look, I don't know why I feel Tychus is good, but when I get the instinct that it's Tychus time, let's go. So I trust him here to at least believe that he knows what he's doing. I'm just concerned that if Murloc doesn't get out to an early lead, that Kerrigan fall-off is going to hurt bad against the late-game GFE composition.
Well, it's a tale of two different teams in terms of the wave clear. Obviously, Kerrigan lends a little bit towards that, is dependent on the level 4 pickup, unless it's Psionic, which lends to a little bit more damage. So it's kind of curious. You see Tassadar on one side. If he can keep the team alive, I think it definitely lends to allow somebody like Crowan to continue to make plays. And that's what Gale Force revolves around. Either it's Michael Udall allowing him to make plays, enabling different people. They have different playmakers. They just have to work around them.
All right, well, looking at these two comps as a whole, who are you giving kind of sway to here, Dunk?
As much as I'm rooting for Murloc Geniuses in the whole set, I think that Gale Force finagled a draft win here, and they're going to be able to play this composition with excellent execution.
You mean you're rooting for a 5-set game, or 5-game set? That's what I'm rooting for, but again, I think it is going to, and we're actually going to see Cawthon Luck on Taika, so a little bit of a change of pace, so that'll be interesting to look up.
Very surprising, very surprising. I'm going to hedge my bets and go 3-1 here in favor of Murlocs, but this is the match, this is the game they lose.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Once again, we're getting into game number 2 now for the grand finals here at the Fall Regional for North America, as we hand it over to Gillyweed and Dread for game number 2.
Here we go. Murloc Geniuses up 1-0 over Gale Force eSports as we head into Sky Temple. Dread, What are your thoughts on this draft?
I agree with a lot of what Dunk had to say. The composition ran by Gale Force eSports is very forgiving. Tassadar is actually going to gain a large amount of value here and is also kind of a soft response to Kerrigan. She's looking for that kill potential. Well, you don't have very many targets. Sonya's going to be hard to kill. Tyrael, the mobility, Li Ming's going to blink, and Tassadar will be able to shift it. So as long as Akka Face has reasonable positioning, I really do enjoy what the composition provides. But already they are moving up to take out a turret here in the upper half, maybe get a little bit of damage. Backing out rather quickly, actually, seeing only 3 members of Gale Force, and that was enough to scare them off. And still early game now. I thought it was going to get exciting. You know, you got the Kerrigan, she's going to go into the combo.
I know, you always believe.
But then I get baited and outsmarted every single time.
I want to tell you a little story about a player named Som.
Okay.
This is not only Som's first showing ever in the grand finals, but his first time ever being in the round of 4. Som has gotten more impressive with every single event he has gone to. His Kerrigan play is like the one thing that makes me believe that Murloc Geniuses, even though, yes, Gale Force eSports has a very scary composition for what they're up against, I believe in the power of the Som.
I believe in the power of the Crowan. At this point, he's on the Li Ming. And I wasn't too sold on the Tracer. Obviously, he had a lot of success when it was against Inventic, but I think a lot of that was just allowing free punishment onto Kenma and some of the positioning. June did a far better job of being able to deal with that. And then also the double tank survivability, just very little kill potential here. But this is a far more appealing comp, not only for him, but then Mike Udall. And personally, Mike Udall's Sonya far better than this Thrall.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. And I think it comes down to him just playing Sonya for longer. This is the first time we've seen him at an event play Thrall, but we've seen Sonya from him before. The first tempo phase has started. Up in the top, Rhaegar is getting zoned away by 2 members of Gale Force eSports. They've got a third there too, and they're just trading out for now. June starting to get a little bit aggressive. It is the support battle, so not the most fun, most epic of battles we'll probably see in this game. But still, they're being able to force him off and trading back and forth on these temples.
Yeah, the ideal situation here for Murlocs, not only because they pushed them off the top, but Sonya has not been able to get that trade when it comes to the middle shot. So right now, Gale Force is not capturing any of the shrines. There they go, finally making the rotation, but they are going to be the underdog when it comes to the shot value here, and losing the structure war, possibly a bit when it comes to XP as well. Murloc Genius is not done making the rotation in mid. It's 4 versus 4 while Rhaegar is confirming the shots on top. The longer fight will be better here for Gale Force, but Kerrigan combo going to come in, hit 2 people here, and right now this is looking like a bad fight as Sonya already eliminated from this match.
Som survives too. June has come in, he's picked up the rest of the shots, and their ability to stall out this middle shrine or this middle temple long enough to allow June to get the rest of the shots means that Murloc Geniuses is playing this first early temple phase so well. They're going to steal even more of these off, especially after getting the kill and keeping Som alive.
And this is exactly what Murloc needs to do with the Kerrigan, having the early game composition. Crowan is now just barely having enough mana to get the teleport over the wall. He'll be fine. But again, the shots really heavily going over to Murloc Geniuses. They're able to confirm a kill as well. So right now, it's much like we saw against them with Vox and Healy. They pick the composition for the early game, get the momentum. Not nearly as detrimental as it was in the first game versus Vox, but a similar story being told here by Murloc Geniuses, and they need to keep this momentum up so they don't get outscaled as we move on through this match.
Both of the teams are starting to work on getting their bruisers for the top lane, so they know that they can turn their focus to the bottom one in time for the temple. Giant camps are still available too, and we may see one team choose to push along with their bruisers, especially maybe Murloc Geniuses, since they did get so much of that top tempo, and start working down the top 4 for Gale Force. But Gale Force, they don't want to allow them to take out that 4 and start to get even more of an experience advantage. So they're going to get pretty aggressive here. They pulled 3 people up.
Yeah, Murloc Geniuses has actually captured it, but they're not, or excuse me, killed the Knights, but not going to capture it until a little bit later, making it a free clear here now that they've taken out the free gate. That was such a beautiful play here for Murloc Geniuses, gaining the advantage while securing the Giants on the bottom half as well. Shrines are not going to be spawning for the next minute, so none of the camps should gain too much value, should be clearable, but right now Murloc Geniuses making better rotations than Gale Force, and that was the story in game number 1 as well. I am very sold on the fact that I think they have a far better understanding of macro Heroes of the Storm than Gale Force.
Looking at the Kerrigan build, it's also the new hotness Kerrigan build, I like to call, with Sharpened Blades and Psionic Pulse, so they have lots of damage that she'll be doing to people as you get the combos pulled in. With not only Sharpened Blades, the extra damage there, but Psionic Pulse too, as well as her Bladed Momentum, so having her abilities up more often as long as she's basic attacking. So as soon as she can land one of those huge combos, potentially out of the bush here around the bottom tower, we'll have to see, she'll be doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, the decision making as well to get the capture onto the night camp a little bit later allowed Greymane to go up top and secure the rest of that 4, giving more experience now in favor of Murloc Geniuses as they clear out these bottom giants. Shrine spawning in 3 seconds, a level advantage now with the 9 spike. Not a talent tier yet, but the race to 10 very convincingly is their favor as Psalm moves aggressively. Tassadar not even going to be the combo. Cleanse did come out there onto Crowan to be able to keep him alive, not able to blink it himself, and gets a huge orb and a reset there for Crowan on with that Triumvirate talent.
Yeah, he has Triumvirate, so those orbs will be flying, and with only June here to try to keep all of these heroes alive, that could get risky very fast, but they want to start to move in to this temple. If they can stall it out long enough, they'll get those heroic abilities, but for now, this is a good fight, potentially for Gale Force to try to take.
But it needs to happen very hastily because 10 is slowly creeping in. 2-man combo now coming into play. Psalm is in Udal's hands as he goes in very aggressively. They're trying to retreat the Condemned, being able to delay, but Caterpillar not going to be able to. Oh, he does with the Eyes of the Dark, but Crowan almost getting the orb to be able to confirm the kill. No reset available yet. A very good job from Gale Force. That aggression allowed them to be able to get these shots on bottom because they put so much damage out so quickly, and it happened at the exact last moment because Murloc Geniuses was about to hit 10 and really turn it on to GFE.
Every one of these orbs is making me like hold my breath, right? It's like, okay, they're alive. They've staved off another one, but I feel like it's only a matter of time, and one of those resets, of course, it's so scary. It's Crowan on Li Ming, but even more so because there are a lot of heroes that June has to try to keep alive. You can only Ancestral one person in a fight.
Talk about a force wall. They're going to split the team. BK goes aggressively. Huge Ancestral going to land onto Psalm, but now Mike Udall is there. Sanctification coming into play. The laser will be removed, but the health bars of GFE far lower, and Kerrigan moving in for another combo is going to hit BK.
BK has been hit. He jumps over to El Druin though, and he stays alive. No kills out of this fight. Gale Force eSports get back, and they have their own heroic abilities too. A lot expended there. They did have to use Sanctification, but they still have Divine Shield.
It was a really big deal that Akaface didn't use his Divine Shield in that team fight because it's a far longer cooldown. Sanctification is in a situation where you can use it very casually, but you want to make sure when you use the D-Shield, it is timed appropriately. They didn't really burn any major cooldowns, where on the side of Murloc Geniuses, Ancestral Healing, Tychus's Laser, we even have the Blessed Shield popped. This is a really good advantage for GFE, and they're trying to capitalize here by making this aggressive rotation. 4 in mid is an easy retreat, but Psalm is getting stunned out. A big laser and combo coming out from Crowan once again, and he's not done, sending out more damage. That kid is a monster here on the Li Ming when he gets that Seeker build too.
Yeah, the minute somebody goes down, Murlocs have to just back out unless they see low health bars on the side of Gale Force too, but that's so not likely to happen with the double support, plus almost a triple support situation they have with having shielding from Tyrael too.
It's not even considering the mobility on the map, right? Like it's not only what the comp has, but then also the mobility, the individual characters. Like, I mean, Psalm, you were talking about how good he is on the hero, but I think he's going to have to really step it up here if they're going to have a shot in this game, because that time frame where Kerrigan gives you that advantage with the early game skirmishing is slowly ticking away.
Well, they're about to have Ancestral Healing and Maelstrom back up, and they're still right caught up with Gale Force in experience. The temples are about to activate. Structurally even, it's very close between both of these teams, only a fort down on either side. So they may want to trade them out. We'll see if one of them wants to go for the fight. Of course, when you have a top-bottom situation for temples, the bottom one is more likely to maybe be able to sneak a boss. Psalm is in trouble.
So split. The force wall coming out as well. That was a very early Ancestral. That is not what you want if you are June. In the retreat for Psalm might be enough. Combo coming in. Sanctification as well. They're diving very deep here as everybody is under pressure, but the D-Shield going out onto the Tyrael. So what was a pretty fight for GFE is not the case any longer, Gilly, as they run away.
Cattle is on the chase for Michael Udo. Here comes Psalm. Doesn't connect with the B-steps. Cattle jumping in. Michael Udall with style.
Five people on his tail, and he stopped a B-step. That was the definition of confidence right there, ladies and gentlemen. That was, wow.
That was the most stylish escape I've ever seen. Great stuff, Mike.
That was bad. Like the fact he legitimately has 5 people chasing him. At first I was like, was that Tychus grenade? No, it's Mike Udall just literally just standing there going, B-step, what's up boys, B-step. That was a call out. Really well done here. Bottom shots are now being captured for June. And Murloc Geniuses securing the bottom 4 as well as the mid 4 as these shots finalize. Actually, maybe not enough for the mid 4 now that that turret's still available. They were posturing around the boss. You saw Sonya not capturing on top, and this was a very subtle rotation. by Sonya not capturing top until they knew they weren't doing the boss. If Sonya was capping top, they knew she's top. Wow, June.
Oh.
That was crowing.
Not a place you needed to be.
Just crowing things.
Yet again. Psalm has chased Michael Udall away at least. They rotated up. They knew they were going to lose June. Yeah, I like too that what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
Sonya not taking this. They didn't know if they could really take the boss. Had to move away. Also, she was able to help move Cattle. Wrong side of the opponent's team to get to your base. But he was trying to just jump over and get away. But he was also got to escort the bruisers.
Yeah.
Sonya did into the fort too. So that put more damage on so that these shots get even more work.
This is getting really sloppy, really quick for Murloc Geniuses as the 4-man body block coming out. Force wall as well. Combo going to go down. Not going to hit anybody. B-Kid is on the aggression, but they're going to back out and just worry about getting damage onto what is going to be the third keep here for Gale Force eSports. But yeah, no, that was really such a beautiful rotation for them. It put them in a position to where essentially Murlocs couldn't figure out if they were able to do the boss and then taking the shots as quickly as they could. So maybe me downplaying Gale Force's macro game was a little bit too aggressive there, because they showed very easily there that they understand what their opponents are trying to do to min-max their game.
At level 13, a pretty interesting talent pickup for Psalm is getting Queen's Rush. It's her version of Sprint. It's not as powerful as Sprint, but you do get a free version of it with every hero takedown. It shows to me that this is a scary match for them, right? Like they're trying to just get whatever sustainability, mobility that they can so that he can get out of trouble. A lot of times you would see like Eviscerate, the extra range on Q, on her Ravage, but not the instance here. Not even Double Strike for more damage either, which is kind of the new talent that you get with this build. But Psalm really wanting to make sure he has mobility to escape if he needs to. And right now he needs to escape. There goes Li Ming. Crowan throwing in. Ancestral healing pretty early on, as is Sanctification. And they're going to try to jump right back into this with Maelstrom. Divine Shield has been used on Sonya. Beacon getting pretty low, but so is Psalm. Psalm should be the first one to go down, giving Li Ming the reset.
Reset number 1 coming into play. Reset number 2 as the follow-up Fury is now trying to get out here. He's going to be stunned down. Unstoppable coming into play, retreating to the boss, making sure nothing else happens to his team. And as we say that, the boss now going to be picked up for Gale Force eSports as they had level 16. And yes, that was obviously, again, another pretty fight for Crowan. But that fight all started by, number 1, personally, a poor decision-making on the side of Murloc to try and take that fight there. But Raffle's Force Wall, allowing
was so good.
free value onto Psalm. You saw him, like, the minute he got past that, he was like, guys, I want to be on that side. Please, like, let me go back. And then one big combo coming up from Crowan really, like, made that a very convincing fight. And the beauty of the team fight on the side of Gale Force eSports is lasers being dropped, and it gets legitimately 0 value every single time. They're in the Sanctification, and then Sonya gives it 2 whacks. The thing's going to be dead, and then they're like, all right, who wants to fight? And most of the time, the answer is not Murloc Geniuses.
Nobody, yeah. They did use Ancestral Healing, right? But Psalm, it had to be used so early on Psalm, and that was it. You want Kerrigan and Greymane to be babied, and you can't do both. And Psalm had to be the target there. He still ended up going down, and the shielding, the sheer shield and heal power for Gale Force makes them untouchable right now.
Yeah, and we do see the level 13 talent with 16 on Tychus is not too traditional of a pairing here, a little bit mixing up of the builds. Outside of that, I think a lot of the talents here are going to be very similar to what we see in a majority of the games. So not too surprised at 17, again, 2-16 here for Gale Force eSports versus Murlocs. Advantage heavily now, it feels like, in the favor of Gale Force eSports. There's been yet to see a team fight where Murloc Geniuses really could convincingly win by any means here. And Beacon has done a very good job with the Sanctifications. He is one of the few players so far in this tournament that I feel like has shown that they can use it. It's really been Fury, Zuna, and Beacon. I've only been the ones who like sanked, and I go, you're going to be able to win a fight with this. So very heads-up play here with them, and bottom keep already about to fall as well during the next phase.
The talents that we're looking at from Murloc Geniuses are pure fear. They're trying to make up for the fact that they have 2 heroes that should be babied by the supports, by maybe even double support, and they don't have that. Holy renewal for Johanna. Give me, I believe, the self-healing from Tychus. That's the stuff at level 13. Self-healing, aggressive defense, giving more shielding for Kerrigan and Queen's Rush, more mobility. They're doing whatever they can. They have Earth Shield too. but I just don't know if it's going to be enough for them in this game.
It hasn't looked pretty so far, but they've been yet to try and take a team fight in an open area. They should be looking for those fights away from the shrine, capture chokeholds, and more so looking for the fights around mid-shrine, for instance. That's the closest to like an open area you can get it, or in one of the lanes, somewhere where they're not going to gain insane value out of what is Crowan and his Disintegrate mixed with Sonya having the Whirlwind, and then, I mean, Sanctification is pretty much a must to try and avoid as best they can. And then Force Wall gains value in those chokes too. Really, those open areas are not their friend, and they seem to keep visiting them over and over again.
Well, now another temple phase activating in about 10 seconds. And structurally, again, a lead for Gale Force, but it's not like there's a ton of forts still up. And Murloc Geniuses are not super far behind. Fury has been caught. Force Wall stopping the defense. Oh, God, these orbs.
Fury just getting absolutely bodied by the Mirror Ball Seeker play there. June was lucky enough to be able to dodge that, not in the dog form now, but we do see the rotation coming down from Tassadar, trying to stall out these shots. This is the great spot for them to take the fight. Again, it's an open area. It's about as close as it gets. Psalm is so afraid to look to get the engage. Udall already popping Wrath of the Berserker, and they're going to go in for a two-man combo.
There's a two-man combo, but the Sanctification was immediate to follow up, and that has allowed them to go on. Here comes the drill. It'll be taken out, just like that. They have used Blessed Shield. Now Psalm is going in. They want to try to make this fight, but Kerrigan gets blown up. Crowan in the back, throwing out mad damage. Teleporting forward, trying to take advantage of these resets, and Murloc Geniuses once again have to just back away.
That wasn't even as pretty as a team fight for Gale Force as some of the other ones. Again, they chose a better territory to start it. Murloc Geniuses B-Kit didn't gain too much value when it came to the Sanctification, and it still just did not look pretty. Ancestral Healing had to be used on one target. Then you see Psalm go in, and he goes, guys, I thought that was supposed to be for me, and then quickly gets removed from there. It's the struggle of the Kerrigan comp, and I mean, the just insane response that Gale Force built in the drafting phase here. But this shot's now threatening on what is going to be the mid-keep. They're getting shots on top as well. 20-tier advantage right now. I mean, Gale Force eSports, as long as they play the patient game, I don't really see them losing it.
I don't know if they're going to get a keep here, maybe up top with the full temple there,
No,
but it's still taking out towers. So,
all of them just
silver
very low.
linings again?
Yeah. The fact that they haven't lost a keep yet, Murloc Geniuses maybe holding on to a little bit of life. They're not going to have the catapult pressure that they may have, but you have a time bomb, right? It's going to be the next shrine phase. It should be enough to be able to hit the 20 tier. The boss might be able to spawn soon and be a big power play for you. Feigning a boss, focusing the rotations here with a 5-second spawn. That's about as pretty as it gets. The only problem is that territory is, again, a kind of chokehold oriented fight, which you don't necessarily excel at when it comes to your composition.
In a team fight, if Murlocs can get 20 and not lose too much in that process, is there any hope for blowing up Crowan before anybody can get there to help, before Divine Shield, before Sanctification, anything like that?
Oh my goodness, Cattle actually taking a lot of damage. Ancestral Healing will hit him. Good Holy Ground from B-Kit. Fury, or excuse me, Mike Udall is getting a lot of damage onto the backline as well. Cattle use Eyes in the Dark to get the retreat as they move in towards the keep. Good Force Wall once again. Laser coming down. Sanctification soon to be hit. No, he doesn't pop it. B-Kit being very patient with that. I love that choice not to be able to be overly aggressive and now use that poke. But as you were asking, if they get 20, is there a shot? Honestly, I think a little bit. They do have the fact that Johanna's 20 survivability will help her out, and Storm Shield will be very, very useful. Outside of that, I don't know, as we do see the Cleanse and Coffin take a large amount of damage. Murloc Genius is here, getting the reset from Crowan, throwing out another orb. June now has who he has in his sights, and Gale Force just doesn't let up.
There's the slow 2 from Temporal Flux as the Disintegrates keep coming out. They need another kill. They want more resets. They want the game. They want to tie this up. Here comes Sanctification. It hits everybody. What? There it is. Rhaegar blown up.
June. He saw the light for just half a second, turned away, and he was
that
like,
light
guys.
Was an orb.
Yeah. It was an orb.
That was not a friendly light.
Now look at Gale Force just doesn't stop. They've already killed 2 people, and they're not done with this fight. It seems like it's been going on forever. Mike Udall has popped Wrath of the Berserker, and they're not even looking towards the core. They're just getting triple keep here as the minions on the upper half are slowly sieging in. They're going to be able to confirm it. These next shots, 3 people are only alive to be able to get the defense. This will be what I think is game, as long as there's not a major pick on the side of Gale Force. They need to just make the proper rotations. Those shots on the core.
Yeah, they can win off of the temple. So you can go for the safe win here.
I mean, you
absolutely.
There's like legitimately 5 different ways Gale Force can win the game, and about 1 way they can lose it. It's pretty much there. The world is an oyster for them at this point.
Well, they are going to get bruisers, at least, cause some panic, some stress for Murloc Geniuses in the top lane. They have plenty of time. 3 nice, healthy keeps, maybe even towers in front of them. And they'll start to move to the top.
There it is.
Johanna is there. Aka's pushing her off. They know. They have to not let them get these temples, and that puts Murloc Geniuses in a checkmate position.
Yeah, Gale Force right now, word for word, their comms are probably the equivalent of just don't die. The only way they lose this game, because the catapult pressure is coming in as well, right? Even if these shots aren't able to do it, the night camp and everything like will. Laser gaining a large amount of value. Tassadar is the only support available. B-Kid's not there. Coffin getting a lot of damage. Akka now is going to be there with the response. B-Kid, oh my gosh, the force wall zoning. And look at the core. Crowan and the catapults, letting them know what's up. It's such a hard spot to be in. This map with that kind of lead and how the new catapults work here is just, you want to have, oh man, he always gives you the 360 laser too, Crowan. Going 1-for-1 now.
Just as flashy as his teammate, Michael Udall. And that's it. Gale Force eSports tie up the series with Murloc Geniuses going 1-1. With a great draft, a lot of comfort picks, good sanctifications too. Just a great job, an unkillable composition.
I feel like both the teams here have their approach to one of the maps, right? We see, all right, you pick the Brightwing, we're gonna take the Tracer, and then we've seen them run Kerrigan on the Sky Temple, we're gonna gain the momentum, we're gonna be able to win the video game, and both of them go, okay, so this doesn't work against better teams. And now the next game, we're gonna have to figure out what else do they have going for them. It's not like Gale Force eSports ran a unique composition. We've been seeing Tyrael left and right here. So we'll see if in game number 3, we see the Clash of the Titans, really a different style of comp, but we'll get more back to the grand finals here, guys. If you guys tune in a little bit later after we get to a quick commercial break, and we'll be here with some hype games.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Heroes of the Storm North America Fall Regional Grand Finals, as it is currently at 1-1 for that trophy right there. Murloc Geniuses going up against Gale Force eSports. That Murloc is not a happy panda right now, to say the least, after that game, as June, towards the later stages, decided to just give in to death, and that's that. That was not easy there for Murloc Geniuses.
I think we've got ourselves a series, Dunk. Game number 1 obviously was a little bit back and forth. Gale Force even it up. I think this could potentially be going 5 without a shadow of a doubt.
It could go 5. It could definitely go 5. That game showed me that Murloc Geniuses aren't a step ahead of Gale Force. In the last game, they played well. They had a composition that did defeat the Tracer, so I thought maybe Gale Force would stumble because they couldn't rely on that Tracer to win them more games.
Right.
But they didn't. They came back with a very nice traditional death ball composition.
Well, let's take a look at some of the highlights from that game, of course. It feels to me like the big overarching strategy when you're going up against GFE is just limit Crowan. Just don't let him play anything. In fact, if you can go 4v5 into the game beforehand, yeah, that's fine.
How many times have we said his name? I mean, we talked about it in the draft. It's like being able to enable different people on that team allows them to make plays. And anytime Crowan gets on Li Ming, it's a scary, scary prospect.
This team fight, especially for me, just showed that Murloc Geniuses didn't have a fundamental grasp of how to win team fights in the late game. We saw them engage in this choke, and it could have gone okay. Once the sanctification got popped, though, they re-engaged onto the front line. You shouldn't try to fight the front line Sonya with your Kerrigan. That's not going to work out. Li Ming took Glass Cannon. I would have loved to see Kerrigan punish that Glass Cannon pickup, but he could never get onto that Li Ming, and the Kerrigan just couldn't make it work. Yeah,
need something like that.
I was momentarily speechless just watching people die to Crowan. It was pretty magical.
It happens quite a lot, J-How, actually.
We get to watch it a second time. That is how awesome it was. I mean, we saw so many of those. I mean, you could almost make an entire highlight reel for Crowan in that last game.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see it a second time. They really wanted to highlight Jin dying there, really. Of course, Crowan's a pretty good Heroes of the Storm video game player. So for GFE there, tying up the series, our next map will be, Garden of Terror, brilliant. Here for, J-How, why are you looking at me like that?
Because everybody loves Garden of Terror, especially you.
Especially me, especially me. So it's a different map, definitely a different style of map here. What are you expecting from these? Are you expecting Murloc Geniuses to say, all right, Crowan, we're going to take away your choices, probably play some of your choices so we don't have to face them?
Murloc Geniuses needs to do something, but I don't know how well prepared any team is for Garden of Terror. It feels like nobody really practices it. It's kind of the odd map out when it comes down to it. And I wonder if somebody had a specific plan in the bag when it came to picking this map. Does somebody have the cheese? Are we finally going to see the NA Vikings? Who knows?
The NA Vikings is something we haven't seen in a while, and it's something we talk about all the time between Towers and Garden of Terror. What we have seen is the resurgence of Zagara, we saw the first ban out, but Falstad has been banned out traditionally in this set between these two teams. I'm curious, as you said, do you start to ban out somebody like Li Ming? Do you try and ban out somebody that you're going against? This is something we talked about last game. There's so many question marks. This is why I love the end of the tournament and the best teams going up against each other. It's such a mental warfare game before the game even starts.
Of course, make sure to join in on the social media interwebs with the hashtag HGC. Use the @ESL Heroes as well as @Heroes Esports to tell us who you think is going to be winning these games as a whole. Make sure to leave the hashtag with which team you think is going to win, as well as that will influence the predictions that we pull up from time to time during the games. And you can get your tweet featured as well if you include the hashtag HGC. So we've seen plenty of tweets throughout the entirety of the tournament. But yeah, let's get back on topic. Back onto Garden of Terror. Our draft is about to pop up very, very soon. I'd love if we saw an NA Vikings. I'm thinking it's a 1 in a million possibility that that would happen. But it's going to be Illidan and Zagara to be banned. Murloc Genius is picking up Falstad first.
Well, we won't be seeing an NA Zagara today. It seems like Gale Force has pretty much said, no, you are never getting that again, Koth and Luck.
We've talked about Koth and Luck so much that taking Zagara off the table, we've said his name a lot less all of a sudden, and they seem to be targeting that. I wouldn't be surprised, as you said, if that's banned out through the rest. It's just a matter of, does Gale Force prioritize? As we see Greymane now being picked up. Is this a Greymane ETC? Is this a Greymane Tyrael? I mean, we've seen so many different compositions based around Greymane alone. Even Uther up there being picked.
It won't be a Greymane Kerrigan, I'll tell you that much. All things considered, they definitely need to pick an enabler for this Greymane, I feel. It was just so difficult for Greymane to connect in the last game. He never had a target. This game, Gale Force Esports realizes what the difficulty was for Greymane in the last game and adjusts their draft accordingly. They know you need something to get Greymane safely into melee range.
One of the things we saw in game number 1 was the fact that Li Ming was picked up by Murloc Geniuses. The threat of Greymane all of a sudden makes that a much more scary prospect this early in the draft.
Yeah, but still, I mean, do you want to give them it? Or, because you've only got one ban left, which we may assume will go over to a certain someone, and then you want to take the Li Ming and just try and kind of hold that backline with maybe like a double warrior comp on the side of Murloc Geniuses? What do you think?
Double Warrior could be solid, but at least the Illidan is already gone, so you don't need to worry about that anymore for Murloc Geniuses. They could ban the Li Ming if they don't feel comfortable taking it. At least you don't have to worry about the Michael Udall Illidan, because Tyrael also enables that. But it might not be enough since we saw how well they played Sonya in the last game.
You know, Dunk, when we sat here, we talked about that last pickup of a Tychus, and you mentioned somebody like a Nubarak to be able to dive in with somebody like a Greymane and a possible Tyrael if needed. Obviously, Tyrael was on the other team. Now, we look at Li Ming. Obviously, one of the biggest detractors is somebody like a Nubarak, and then you see so much dive potential. Do you think that's a possibility that we see Gale Force run something like that this time?
Gale Force absolutely could utilize a Nubarak here. I think the Nubarak Tyrael composition has been way underappreciated so far. It's just so sweet having those two highly mobile bruisers. They can both threaten the backline. They absolutely crush Li Ming.
They've looked like one of the more threatening teams of Gale Force, with the potential of always going for an Illidan, always going for a Tracer as well. And then, as you say, the Nubarak kind of plays to a similar style that could really hurt them if they do, if Murloc Geniuses do allow them to have it.
But the other thing that we have seen is also Tracer get to the back line, pepper a little bit, and then send somebody like Greymane to finish the job, but they are choking out a little bit of the supports. The biggest question mark I have, we've seen some good Brightwing play, and we've seen some pretty shaky. Karazim's still on the board as well. I'm actually really curious. Obviously, Akape is known for Brightwing. I'm not sure, is this going to be the opportunity for him to run something like that?
The team composition so far doesn't really look like a Brightwing composition.
Exactly, yeah.
It's mostly excelled on the Cursed Hollow that we've seen that Brightwing come really into effect. So unless Gale Force goes with the Tracer plan, then I don't think they'll pick Brightwing. If they pick those two together, that would make sense. They've shown that works very well because the Brightwing mobility combined with the Tracer can just be so powerful.
You said something about you probably wouldn't see Kerrigan right after Greymane, but what we will see during the second phase is a Kerrigan pickup, and that is a Michael Udall specialty.
The Kerrigan seems much better positioned here because Gale Force is not locked out of both the Tyrael and the Uther. We said how difficult it would be for Kerrigan to have an impact in the last game because of all the ways Gale Force had to protect from that. Now, Gale Force is playing the Kerrigan into Uther, sure, but at least Kerrigan has 2 good targets, Falstad, Li Ming, and has the protection of the Tyrael.
Looks like the Brightwing is going to be coming in for the support here, as you said before, Akaface very well known for that. So where do you think Murloc Geniuses has to go now? They need some front line to protect from this extremely powerful melee composition on the other side.
My concern is Gale Force is pretty much putting Murloc Geniuses to the fire here, saying, do you have an answer for Tracer? Because we're going to pick it, ha 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 ha. Like, they have the exact competition. The Tyrael, the Brightwing, Greymane, this is the composition we've seen where you're going to pick Tracer, and now, even by not actually having picked it yet, Murloc Geniuses needs to draft in a way that can beat Tracer.
If you ignore the entire right side of that draft and you just look, you have Falstad, Li Ming, Uther, you're like, man, we started out really well. But the meta is so deep right now and Gale Force is so threatening, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, is this as good as we think it is? As they pick up Johanna, that's going to get a few blinds in. It keeps the shields off of Kerrigan. It keeps the damage from Greymane neutralized a little bit. And now we see the Anubarak. That's going to help isolate a lot and protect that back line.
Both of those tanks are sweet against Kerrigan. Maybe they're not ETC tier, but both of them have the ability to dodge combos and also threaten Kerrigan on the front line if she makes a mistake. So I actually really like that pickup for Murlocs. I'm just wondering if it's too little too late. I feel like Gale Force can still go Tracer here.
Do both of them cause disruption to Tracer, though? I mean, Johanna, like, if Tracer's coming in or whatever, and then she's in a position where she's trying to threaten one of your members, at least you can kind of, like, shield glare and negate quite a bit of that damage pushing forwards. Likewise, Anubarak could slow it down, but it will be Lunara for that spread poison lovelies.
I like it. The 2 biggest questions I'm going to have looking at this draft is Falstad being on the side of Murloc Geniuses. Will the Sanctification come out in time to be able to keep them in the fight when necessary by putting that Sanct down? The other thing is will we be seeing greater spell shield to detract a lot of that damage coming out from Li Ming for Lunara? Or is it going to be that giant killer to be going up against that double front warrior that Murloc Geniuses was pulling out?
GFE does have pretty good way to deal with the front line, but I'm concerned that their Kerrigan is just going to get wailed on by Li Ming, just like happened to Murloc Geniuses last game. I mean, in this game, we're seeing another situation where Kerrigan is being played into a very strong front line. She's most likely going to have to target those tanks with her combo, and then the D-Shield can be saved for a squishy, but if that Kerrigan's up in front, she's going to get destroyed.
So does she have to kind of almost play in a Thrall-esque flank style, but then when I say that, why not just have Thrall? Like, because he's more susceptible to actually try and fly in those flanks, keep himself alive whilst trying to find those flanks, etc. What do you think?
I got a pretty good idea on why it's not Thrall. It's because Michael Udall loves Kerrigan and he makes plays. Right. The problem is a lot of reasons you just said. It seems like Thrall might fit a little bit better into that composition, but maybe it's a comfort level. Maybe it's I want to come out and prove a point. There's so much. Kerrigan's really strong. We're going to see what he can do with her.
All right, well, let's take a look at who will be playing what here in game number 3 of our grand final between Murloc Geniuses and Gale Force eSports. It's 1-1 currently. Dunk, who's going to be your standout?
Psalm on this Falstad. He has to deny the engages. If you just mess up the first Kerrigan engage, Murloc Geniuses can make havoc in these fights.
Psalm being the flex for Murloc Geniuses, but on the other side, I'm looking at the exact opposite in Rafflecopter. What he does on Lunara is going to be very telling.
True, true. She can always be a playmaker, can Lunara. Let's see if she's going to make the plays happen here on Garden of Terror. Once again, game number 3 of our grand finals. We go over to Gillyweed and Dreadnought for the commentary.
2 games down, and we're tied at 1-1 between these 2 semi-finalists, but only one can win and be our grand champion. Dread, here we go into Garden of Terror, a map that we don't normally get to see a lot, but we've seen quite a bit here this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing that a lot of the teams have picked it. It seems like with the lack of Inferno, they've kind of made up for it in Garden of Terror. I don't totally know the reasoning behind some of the teams. I don't know if it's they just feel like they can catch their opponents off guard, or if they have a new strategy that's going to make them a bit more confident in how it's going to be played out. Surprising in the sense that there are no, like, well, we learned how to play Vikings, and then suddenly they just pop out. It's a very standard composition for all these teams. But we are 1-1 in the series in the grand finals for the North American Regional here between Murloc Geniuses and Gale Force eSports. Murloc Geniuses have a lot to prove here as they already started in this match, getting a little bit of damage, dancing back and forth. Fury taking a little poke as well. And I think I really liked how Jehao brought it up. I'm looking at Raffle. We've seen the Lunar. It's been very hit or miss. And I want him to prove that it's going to be a valuable thing. And as right as I say that, he is going to be the one in their eyes. He's going to be falling down. That's exactly what I was talking about. I think that's a player we need to be looking out for in this match.
Blown up before Akaphase can even phase shift in. That is a lot of damage that they have, that Murloc Geniuses have the potential to have. But it was Rafflecopter on Lunara we saw be able to 1v1 Li Mings with the Greater Spell Shield and the Leaping Strike build.
Yeah, that is what they've been going for and gotten a reasonable amount of value out of it in the last year, or in some of the series that we've seen him play it. So we'll see if he'll be able to do that again here. He should be a pretty hard target outside of the Uther to be able to get onto and get a lot of value in this matchup. Li Ming did end up going with her Force Armor at level 1, so she'll have high survivability into that style play, or at least definitely more than she would naturally.
I am interested as well what Raffle will pick at level 7. Of course, Nature's Calling would be a great help in trying to clear up some of these Garden Terrors, of course the small seed camps too. But when you're up against an Uther, a lot of times you want to pick Splintered Spear because it was buffed. You can hit more people with that, try to spread the poison out so that he just cannot deal with the overall area damage that they can bring, especially too with the Kerrigan.
Yeah, and we already know that Gale Force is getting a start on the top seeds here, and a lot of this game comes down to the small camps. The fact that we have seen this early rotation here for them might mean that they can use that early advantage composition that they have for Gale Force to try and make it happen. Saw him even getting the rotation down here. Should expect some form of punishment, whether it's a siege on top or a rotation down. Michael is working on the rotation, but we saw a bit of confusion with Crowan and B-Kid as they make it down, but it's going to be a bit too late. Is this going to be the start of a 3 versus 5?
Michael jumps in. They want to get 10, but he's going to get pulled into a condemn, and he will get taken down. They're not done yet. Rafflecopter so close to dying, 40 health, but makes it behind the gate. Hammering, Saul was looking for the kill, but he didn't find it.
Wasn't able to get it, and again, that was, it just seems like the communication on the rotation. We saw Greymane, Crowan specifically, and B-Kid both mount up and take 2 steps top, and then ended up making the rotation down there. Mike Udall got a little bit hasty when they saw the the Terror falling down there, and they were worried about making sure they could try and deny the seeds. Cost him his life here, and cost him a bit of an XP lead, where we see half a lead here now for Murloc Geniuses in game number 3.
Both of these teams really showing their flexibility too. We have Cawthon this time playing Li Ming in the past. Of course, we've seen Psalm playing it too, but Psalm playing Falstad here. On the other side too, Crowan playing Greymane this time to allow Rafflecopter to play Lunara. In the past, we have felt like that's been one of the downsides of Gale Force as they first came together in the last season, so it's great to see that they've really been working on their flexibility. What's not so great is that Fortune is caught between so many members of Gale Force going in for this invade, and they will take down Uther.
They do end up hitting the combo on Cattle, but he gets the burrow over, and Akaphase falls down with a huge orb coming up from Cawthon over the wall. Cattle now is slowly falling as Greymane is trying to dig his teeth into him, but it's not going to get it. They're all backing out here with a 1-to-1 trade.
Good synergy from Cattle and Fury too. Heads up and communication, knowing that he couldn't burrow out of there yet, but he could get help from Fury condemning the members of Gale Force to allow him to escape back in. An experience advantage for Murloc Geniuses, just slightly about half level, but they have picked up level 7 talents, and that is going to be more shielding, especially for abilities. Chitinous Plating for New Barax. That will help with some of the ability damage that Gale Force can put out, as they definitely can do it. They've got Kerrigan, they've got Greymane, and even Lunara too.
And for level 7, Lunara is going to go with the Splintered Spear, where we see Wizenduas on the side of Greymane, so a little bit of stack and spread damage here for the Uther. He's going to have a hard time being able to out-heal that damage outplay here. Patience shown for Gale Force eSports as they posture towards the Giant Camp and the downtime here. Because we're yet to see a Night Phase, actually, Kato is not going to be giving this up. He goes in a 2-man combo as we see Akaphase making the blink in here, but this is a rough fight.
Combo pulled the 2 people in. Michael Udall getting pretty low. B-Kid still hanging on at the cap point. June is the target for Michael Udall. He jumps in. Somehow June, though, has stayed alive. Finally a swipe to take him down, but Crowan is pretty low too, and orbs from the side as well as the hammering. Still, though, Gale Force eSports take out 3 members.
The block Q as well. Gosh, the value that Tyrael just got in that area, getting the 5-man stacks onto his W, keeping his team alive, that support is so undervalued in a lot of situations. In the late game, once in a while you can see it and you're like, Tyrael did so much there, but this early in the game, the shields that he provides and extra survivability, especially when you have the Brightwing, it's it's ridiculous what it can provide there. Not him dying. I thought he was going to suicide in order to try and make sure his team won that fight for sure. But Gale Force Esports has managed to turn the momentum into their favor as we move close into the nighttime.
I fear for Murloc Geniuses and the combo between a fully or even a highly stacked Wizen Duelist Greymane and a Lunara who can put so much spread poison damage.
Yeah.
If they start to really bring down multiple health bars, go for the throat, going in, getting a second one, maybe rolling back out with disengage, throwing out a cocktail, they could easily snowball a fight. And there's also a Kerrigan too.
Oh gosh, that was so close to being able to get the Q, breaking the line of sight, so Mikey Doll was actually not in range, or excuse me, not having the vision to be able to get in with the Ravager as they start the top seeds here for Gale Force Esports. The response from Murloc Geniuses was capturing on the bottom as they're both going to obtain the first Garden Terror of the game. A very even trade across the board. The only advantage here going to Gale Force with 1 kill and now going to be picking up their level 10s.
Heroic abilities starting to come on. Here we'll see what Rafflecopter wants to do, hiding it for now, as is Tyrael, interestingly enough. Garden Terror picked up for Murloc Geniuses. Gale Force wanted to make sure to get a nice mercenary camp pushing in the top lane first before they get their own.
The Night Camp pressuring on the upper half is not too big of a deal because the global exists for Murloc Geniuses. They're the ones pushing forward with their Terror, not a response yet for Gale Force. They seem to be slow in that rotation. And we'll see who comes out ahead. Their new Terror with, not so much the new, but it seems like since the last time we saw it in competitive, it used to work a little bit differently. Whereas now it only getting the disable cattle here is moving forward, trying to gain a reasonable amount of value. It definitely doesn't do as much as it used to in the early game to lose a value towards the seeds, which is why I think we see the teams trading so much here. Raffle's trying to eat away at it, and Cattle is going to manage to get the 4.
Rafflecopter did end up picking up Thornwood Vine, potentially because they have 2 targets who do need to be cared for in Greymane and Kerrigan, especially because of Wizen Duelist. Maybe feeling like it's just better for him to stay back, use that long-range target heroic ability to just dot up people with the poisons as well as Splintered Spear, and then allow Kerrigan and Greymane to be the playmakers of this game. I mean, he did have his time with the Leaping Strike for sure earlier on.
I like the fact that he's made this adjustment in his build. Going with the Thornwood Vine, I think the amount of damage and value it's going to get into a double tank here with Uther as the only resource to heal up. It makes their composition not just a one-shot kill when you have Mike Udall there on the Kerrigan. If they burn the cooldowns on him, imagine what Lunar is going to be able to do after this point. And when it comes to the rotations as well, and the Terror, Udall's gotten a lot of value. That's the second 4 he's been able to secure so far in this match. His team now sitting 3/4 of a level lead over his opponents. They have no 4 to retreat to. I wouldn't doubt if they try to force the fight if Greymane can get in position.
Michael Udall has used Maelstrom, which means it is time to go. Jumping onto June, looking for a combo, but June dodges it. There is Sanctification too. They want to continue this fight, but with that down, lots of members of Murloc Genius is still able to fight, and Fury is coming into Burrow Charge, hitting a couple of members. They're trying to take someone down. A gust into the corner from Som, and Michael Udall might finally be in trouble here. They might bring him down. He does go down, and a big blow up on Brightwing.
That 5-man condemn from Fury there really helped them to be able to secure the kills, getting a reset on top of it. And that, I mean, the missed Sanctification, the minute you saw that Cattle's posturing, the minute he's like, all right, that Sank's down, they walked away half an inch, and he's like, they're still chasing, I'm turning. Because that little value when they were taking already a risky fight, not having Greymane into the rotation, cost them that team fight. Gale Force Esports showed that they were able to use the Sanctification pretty well in the last series, but now they really need to make sure that they clean it up if they want to pull away and qualify for BlizzCon.
That's also such a nice thing about having a double warrior composition, is you still have a big frontline hero, even though Johanna wasn't quite there yet. They had a new Barak who could be the frontline engage, allowing the rest of them to go in, start trying to get resets for Li Ming too. And this is a game for sure. Tied pretty up close in kills and in the levels as well, both with their 13 talents. Structurally, just about even to 1 extra 4 down from Murloc Geniuses. They're starting to get some of their mercenary camps, so they know that those will be able to push down lanes while they start to get some seed camps and another Garden Terror.
Yeah, both the teams are going to be able to secure 2 small camps and most likely look to trade with no talent advantage on either side. Psalm is being harassed by BK at a small margin, but he's going to back out here and worry about that large Terror. There has been almost outside of that one skirmish, it really feels like these teams are very comfortable with trading. Gale Force Esports did out-rotate Murloc Geniuses in the sense of the Terror phase. They kept theirs alive much longer. We saw Mike Udall get more value out of it, but Gale Force eSports has what I consider to be that early game composition outside of the Lunara being able to be a kind of redeeming quality here. So unless Raffle plays out of his mind, I feel like they've lost that major power spike that Mike brings to fight. Having him in the Terror is really good because he can get a lot of DPS, harassment onto his opponent when he falls out. You have a large combo potential. People often forget about what character specifically is in the Terror.
Right.
But outside of that, if they don't gain large value with this Terror in the skirmishes, I feel like Gale Force hasn't really set the tone the way they needed to for this match.
We'll see if they can get more done with this Garden Terror they have now. It's still pretty healthy, and Anubarak is picking up the Murloc Genius's Terror. Both of the teams have been doing a good job too with their global heroes. You can see Falstad and Brightwing up in the top lane trying to get the split, so trying to help their team get to 16 faster. Currently, Gale Force is winning that race, but it's really neck and neck. Murloc are about to get those 16s too, and we could see a big brawl once one of those teams hit that point.
Yeah, they're just kind of slapping each other with their pots and everything as we see the skirmish from B-Kid on the bottom half here, trying to move in, maybe get some harassment onto the fort. Cattle, meanwhile, is wailing away at the fort. 16 tier advantage about to be picked up for Gale Force. Mike Udall has already moved on to the keep, so he's gaining more value in this situation. Cawthon was able to remove the pot. That's a very long cooldown with how the current Garden Terror works. So with that being off, they might be able to try and make plays. They rotate in and get a large deep damage here onto Cattle as well. It's usually, as the game moves on this late, it's about who keeps their Terror alive the longest more than anything because the potential. So Murloc has a really good upper hand right now.
They also were able to get 16, and they've made Brightwing come in to help out with the team. So all 5 are here, whereas Falstad is split soaking in the top lane. So he's starting to help them get ahead. He's going to take down this fort, and that's opening up the battleground for Murloc Geniuses. This Terror is almost complete. It's almost been taken down, just 20 seconds left. Falstad doing such a great job in the lane, getting his team ahead in experience, and especially on that race to 20.
12 minutes and 45 seconds into the match. Kills are only 5-4, 17-16. The Terror now falling down. Falstad's not going to be with them, and the teams are just going to back out. They're going to say, hey, it's daytime. We're going to back out, get some pressure on the map, paint it our color, and hope that a fight's going to happen later on. But if they do what they've done for the first 13 minutes, that's going to result in, all right, you guys get the one half. We're going to get the other half. We're going to get in the Terrors. We're going to slap each other a little bit, and then we're going to back them. We're going to do it again. And maybe we'll talk at 45 minutes in the game. As I say that, B-Kid gets obliterated in the mid lane with the chain CC. Their Blessed Shield was going to be used to secure the kill. And now, finally, Murloc Geniuses go. We're going to be the aggressors. We're done with this even trade. We've waited out your early game advantage. Finally, we're going to use our scaling onto you.
Murlocs are like, fine, Dread. We'll do something to entertain you if we must. They steal away some of these mercenary camps too, which is a huge win. At this point, earlier on in the game, both teams were getting the mercenary camps to stall out their opponents, hope for a push while their opponents were trying to get seeds. There's none of that available as Falstad clears out bottom for Gale Force eSports. There's nothing left for them to do that, and so all of the map control as we go into the night phase is there for Murlocs.
Choking Pollen was picked up for Lunara to try and get the harassment onto the backline. That Q, if it hits, is going to try and draw the resources from Uther. So we'll see if he's going to be able to gain any value at that talent. He did not take the increased range, instead unfair advantage. So if it hits, it's a lot of damage, but he risks his positioning. Raffle, again, showing that he needs to be the playmaker here in this match.
Well, maybe if he knows that, you know, there's going to be a Kerrigan up in front, there's a Tyrael up in front, there's potentially a Greymane up in front, feels a little bit safer about that, not thinking that he is really the threat. But again, there is an Anubarak who can always dive on him, so he has to be cautious about that. And of course, he wants to apply the poison before he hits him with the Noxious Blossom to make sure he maximizes the damage out of that. So he'll be looking to do that. It makes sense, again, why he got Thornwood Vine now.
This is actually a misplay. Udall picking up this Terror means that essentially all they're going to do on the side of Murloc Geniuses is wait it out as long as possible. I'd like to see them. They're not. They're going to respond. All right, so the distance that your opponent can move the rotations here with, because you have the advantage, you can paint the map your team's color. Wait as long as you possibly can. They're going to Siege be in a bad position. Then you can get into it later, having a 20-second advantage into a team fight. By capturing it that early, they no longer are keeping it. Because early game, they're like a little bit of Siege here. Now these plants slap hard. They're your best hero right now. They're worth 2, essentially. Look at him chunking right there, B-Kid. And so you want yours to be alive as long as you possibly can. I think they should have waited a bit here, but for now, it seems like Murlocs is pulling a bit ahead as they have the Night Camp sieging on bottom as well.
Poor Som has ran into so many of these polymorphs. He's like, can you please stop turning me into salad? I would like to stay this bird, or this warp flying on this bird, but they are taking down the Garden Terrors fairly, actually really even, yeah. They're gonna just both go down and
Udall is victor.
Not see.
We can go home, boys. Udall won the Terra game. 41 seconds left. I'm sure you'll get a lot of value out of that 7 HP.
Is that how you qualify for BlizzCon now? You win the Terra game?
You win the Terra game.
Got it.
But for now, they're going to just back out and I guess keep up the same game, looking for picks. I don't know if Gale Force understands how detrimental this patience that they've had is for their composition. They are down not only 20 at this point, which is a power spike their opponents are going to look to be abusing, but then also structurally, they are now on the back foot. They do not have a scaling composition. B-Kid has been getting caught out here and there. I mean, I don't even think a team has had a single seed advantage over the other the whole time. They've just been trading, but that only helps Murlocs.
And Murlocs have 20. They're the ones with Storm Talents. And again, we see them getting aggressive for camps. The split soak is happening by Kerrigan. Normally we would see that from Brightwing, but instead Michael Udall will be the one soaking up in the top lane. Murlocs see this. They know she's up there. Kerrigan has no way of phase shifting in to help her team. She is way far up. No, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't. Is that a new feature? Meanwhile, the engagement here, the repulsion split there with the Wave of Force, but a huge sanctification coming up from B-Kid as they look to get on the turn. Kerrigan is still nowhere to be found as Murloc Geniuses knocking onto the keep, throwing out the DPS and 20 advantage still into their favor.
Kerrigan backed. Here he comes. Michael Udall was again looking for a combo, but they are not quite at the point they want to get that huge team fight. No heroic abilities were burnt. Murloc stayed very patient through that fight, only using Blessed Shield, which is it's a low cooldown cost. And Sanctification was used, so Murlocs are still okay with sieging up here. Now that it's 20, that's a different story. They want to get back and get ready for the next night phase.
And this is the point of the game where teams get baited into death shrubs very quickly. You see Murloc's kind of backing out there and waiting here and there at the shrubs, trying to get as much vision, but because the map is so big and it's so easy to just sit there and wait, and the resources, now that the Terrors are gods among men, you need to be worried about the seed advantage, that you can get caught quickly. And if that's going to happen, that could be a game-changing situation here, as Gale Force has secured 20, got a couple of camps, keeping pressure onto the map, and it looks like they're going on to Cattle, who is a bit split here, having to burrow out.
He used to burrow charge to get away. Here comes Kerrigan with the combo. Cattle polymorph into a small critter, but
so
here
split.
comes Michael Udall jumping back in. All of Murloc Geniuses are together, but they have to use Divine Shield to keep him alive. Falstad has dropped. Pro-In started to go in more. They have Sanctification and the Storm Shield, shielding for days to keep Gale Force alive. Michael Udall on the bottom, trying to chase down Cawthon. He might have found June. Here he comes, and June is down.
June ends up falling here, and so that's going to be a 3-for-0 trade now. And Gale Force eSports is looking to secure the keeps. They aren't even worried about the seeds. The knock up there, June will res, so now only 3 people up. And this is a little bit of a sloppy communication here. Gale Force doesn't realize if they want to go for the keep or not, maybe forgetting the fact that Uther was going to come back to life. Now they're backing out, worrying about the camps. I love the fact that Udall is denying the small camp. Again, a lot of people don't realize that this map is all about the small camps. Getting as many as you can, denying those free 15 from your opponents. They go in to try and get the combo. Patience coming out from him, but he does end up missing it as Raffle is putting a large amount of DPS into him.
Wave of Force used with Repulsion to push everybody away, make sure that Murlocs don't lose anybody else. It's really important with respawn timers being so long that they don't have staggered death times, or else they'll never come back into this game. But that does allow Gale Force to very much control this seed point. They've gotten all of the small camps. There's only one large Garden Terror left that can even give seeds to Murloc Geniuses. Gale Force aren't going for it for now, but just now everybody is up for Murlocs, and they are going to start it.
Yeah, so it's in Gale Force's best interest to bring the Terror down because the team fights so well. And they want to deny a Terror here from their opponents, fighting these chokeholds. At first, it becomes a little bit of a risky choice, but with that polymorph and the DPS that it outputs, along with Sanctification, they are in a really pretty spot. B-Kid getting caught out, stun locked as well. He might have to force Sanct on himself. There's going to be the hard to shield blink in. Cattle taking a lot of damage, and I don't know if B-Kid's going to be able to survive this situation. Sanctification still available, and now Udall is there with that terrifying, with the terrifying terror. Wow, that wasn't redundant, but I mean, look how quickly Murloc backs out. The minute Mike shows up, that thing is so much DPS here.
Well, look at what they used, too. They used Gust, Divine Shield, and Locust Swarm just to try to keep Cattle alive through that jump. And Michael Udall, he's in the Terror. That's terrifying, as you said. They have Sanctification too, and the Terror just zones. They don't even have to really do too much off of this. They still can, definitely, but they didn't have to do too much. They could use it to soak damage because they get another one off the back of this.
Yeah, and now what Gale Force is looking to do is open up at bare minimum. It's going to be a keep at this point. And when they get to that, using the second Terror to look for either the win condition or a double to triple keep. Again, the team fighting potential they have is very large. Even getting rid of the bottom port if needed, but it looks like Murloc Geniuses want to fight there. Getting burrowed in, and then Great Polymorph coming out from Aquaface. They're on the retreat. He has no resources available yet. Udal was trying to zone the backline. He was taken away in this Terror, but again, we're just slowly but surely watering our next one. Gale Force is going to be able to move into the core, slash and keep again. Great repulsion, getting the split. The Shriek Ray coming in as well. Man, if Falstad was there, that was a bit too late. Saw him. If he was there a bit earlier, they might have been able to get that pick.
He had to go back and heal because he was 1v1ing the Terror, and it was not going well. I feel like that's been the story of Falstad's game, even earlier on, having to be the one to deal with the Terror. But Gale Force grabbing some mercenaries on their way back to healing up and getting ready for the next push. Their Garden Terror ready in 10 seconds.
All right, Gale Force. Are they going to be able to get another keep or the core? If they're able to secure 1 to 2 kills, it should be game, as long as the Terror remains semi-healthy. It's a lot of it is about how much free damage they let them take as they move across the map, right? Gale Force here, you see them moving together as a group. This is smart. You never want your Terror to go out too far, take free poke, and you don't want to neglect your team fight and your team, because again, you are your #1 hero here. So as we see Vision for Gale Force and the rest of Murloc Geniuses, I'd like to see them worry about the fight. This is so risky. Mike is neglecting his team. There he goes. He drays the pull. He's more worried about the push. He's going for core here. So they need to just not die here, and they can win the game.
Sam has already pushed people away. They've used Gust, which means Gale Force can keep pushing the members here. Sam has to fly back to try to deal with the Terror. Rafflecopter is shredding a Nubarak, and Sam is pretty low for trying to deal with the Garden Terror. They're stopping the back. They really stopped the back for a Nubarak because he goes down. That's already 1 kill. The Terror on core. The shields have dropped 70%, and with each plant slap, Michael Udall brings them 1 step closer to being 2 games up over Murloc Geniuses. And there they go. Gale Force eSports takes game #3 and is 1 game away from winning this tournament.
Gale Force eSports was 1 risky decision away to be able to win that game, and they pulled it off. Mike Udall there, neglecting his team, saying, guys, I've got it. Just don't worry about it. Don't die. We're going to be able to confirm the game here. And they did it. And they were the teams who ended up bringing Murloc Geniuses into that map. So we'll see how this series goes. They're 1 game away from qualifying for BlizzCon, but that was an interesting map and also playstyle. We're going to see what our panelists have to say about that early game and late game.
That's right. Thank you very much, Shred. As, of course, now we see GFE taking a 2-1 lead here in this series, and it feels like they've hit a little bit of their stride now in this series. Obviously, the first game not going over to them, a bit of a blip here. They are now bringing the fight very heavily to Murlocs.
I mean, we saw them take the fight, and the biggest question was, how would Kerrigan fit into their composition after they already picked Greymane? They executed well. They got certain picks, I feel like, at the right time, but it was a battle of the terrors, to say the least, in that game.
Yeah, they traded every Terror until the very end of the game, and only because GFE had a huge advantage in terms of manpower were they able to finally secure that double Terror and finish the game. But I really like the way that GFA used the Terror as Kerrigan armor. It was so good to mitigate her late game weaknesses and just propel their team fights so well.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights from that game, of course, here with GFE marching on forwards into, well, could potentially be their last match in just a little moment here. Starting things on Garden of Terror, 6 versus 6.
6 versus 6?
Levels.
Oh, levels. Anyway, Kerrigan went for the combo here, doesn't quite secure the kill initially, but the hugely Ming combo returning this kill was so clutch because it keeps them even. A Nubrak barely walking away there, so impressive.
You know, there was a lot that Gale Force brought to the table between Greymane and Kerrigan. They played that well. But, you know, one of the things we talked about was the power of what we were going to see from Psalm and what we were going to see from Rafflecopter. I really feel like Rafflecopter played well. That was a big play that Psalm made there with Falstad. But when we saw the Splintered Spear come out at level 7 to combat a lot of Uther's deficiency as heals, I thought that fared well for them in team fights.
The team fight potential was crazy for GFE. I mean, we saw Lunara do so much damage. Look, all of that poison spread on the whole team, and then they can just pick off the targets when they reconnect. This is pretty much the team fight that set the stage for the double terror.
Yeah, the double terror, as you said, came right after this. They almost played it perfectly. They managed to use it to zone out at the bottom, and it was just great execution a lot of the times for Gale Force. You know, there wasn't a ton of kills, but the kills that they made were at the right time, and then they were able to utilize the objective very well.
It feels like the team fight has gotten progressively better, not only as the series has gone on, but also in that last game, as the game went on, even towards the very end when it was a 4v5 almost, and they had to worry about the Garden Tyrant going across, they were still winning that team fight, 4v5.
Dread was talking about how their composition looked like a sort of early game composition, and yet they did get better at team fighting later and later in the game. We just saw how well they played around that Kerrigan's combo cooldowns. And every time there was an opportunity, Michael Udall took the shot and made the combo happen.
I mean, it was something we're sitting over here. You said we don't get to see a lot of Garden of Terror, so the strategies aren't necessarily there, but you pointed out the fact that they put Kerrigan in that chair. He made the right plays at the right time, and I feel like the execution there, despite the fact that we don't see a lot of Garden of Terror, I thought they played it really well.
Well, from one map to another, it's going to be Towers of Doom as our map number 4. Excited for that one. Of course, make sure to join in the discussion with the hashtag HGC. Make sure to tweet us at ESL Heroes as well as at Heroes Esports and tell us who you think is going to win this series. And at the moment, if you do pick GFE, well, you know, they're one game away from winning, so it's a pretty good bet, maybe. Of course, we're going to be on Towers of Doom. What a map here. What a map.
One map left for the NA Vikings dream. One more time. Let's go, boys.
It's never going to happen. I've already given up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, probably too late now. If we would have seen it, I mean, if we were going to see it, we would have already seen it. So,
I am curious what we are going to see. I mean, we've seen this inter-set meta, and this is a completely different map. It's a completely different strategy. We saw Brightwing, and sometimes you wonder, is this a good Brightwing map? This, with the global mobility, is indeed a good Brightwing map.
This map is amazing for Brightwing. You can get so much value because not only is she a solid interrupter, but the global gets a lot of value here. I mean, it's just hard to harp on it too much because every time those towers show up and it's split, you get so much value.
All right, into draft. Tyrael first pick again for Gale Force Esports, and it seems like they've found a little bit of comfort in it, boys.
A little bit, to say the least. Tyrael, I wonder what his involvement rate is this weekend, because he has been seen a lot, whether it's picks or bans. He's now moved up.
I wonder if it's the highest in any tournament ever, because it's pretty darn high at this point.
Well, I feel like there were a couple teams that managed to let it slip through. In Group A, in the lower bracket of Group A, I feel like he might have slipped through a couple times. But still, he's got to be pushing 75% plus interaction rate. Yeah. And on this final day, he's been in every single game, right? Or banned out.
It's been a complete shift in the meta. Obviously, just minor tweaks to Tyrael have put him at the forefront. Even though he was really good before, he's now much more heavily prioritized. But Murloc geniuses, they got to feel, I mean, this is, I almost feel like if Uther's now becoming something of a comfort pick for somebody like June. You know, we saw him get picked off a couple times, but I don't know if this is just going into what they want to do, whether they're hoping to get a gray main, but obviously Li Ming, we've seen a lot of early Uther pickups as of late.
Uther pickup early, not the most surprising, but the Li Ming here in the first rotation is really what I'm questioning. We have not seen Li Ming prioritized that highly yet, and I feel like Gale Force Esports is going to be able to tear that apart with their Tyrael Greymane.
I'm also really curious because the fact that they first picked Tyrael and then Greymane got through, that was to be expected. I just wonder if Gale Force, because Alcaface, that guy right there, has the flexibility on supports, if they might look at somebody like a Falstad. I also know that on this map in particular, Rafflecopter likes to play somebody like Sylvanas, so trying to draft around what some of their comfort picks are, I'm curious if that's going to fit in here.
Brightwing would absolutely fit in here, I think. She is amazing on the map, plus the global and the dive assistance on Greymane are both just excellent additions and really help enable those kills onto the backline. Now, it will be a Rhaegar though, sadly. We will not see the Brightwing, as much as I wish that were not true.
A solid pickup though.
At least nobody can go into any sport chokes. And it's going to be Illidan banned out from on the set of Murloc Geniuses. So once again, slightly limiting factors against the Medivh ban.
Whoa!
What? What?
Did they have some, have they been doing some homework, some top secret homework?
Super secret strats, .doc. I don't actually know why the Medivh was banned here. We have not seen anyone play Medivh yet at this event. This is the second ban he's gotten, but nobody's actually been willing to show it. So it looks like he's kind of just laughing there. Like
it feels like Rufflecopter's surprised they just banned it as well.
He's like, did we hit random on that ban, guys?
Yeah,
is that what happened? Meanwhile, as the draft continues, the Illidan ban makes perfect sense. There is room to enable that Illidan on the Gale Force comp, and you know how dangerous Michael Udall is with that Illidan.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense for Murloc Geniuses to ban that away. They will pick up the Thrall, which I like on this map. Excellent at interrupting those channels.
Oh, how Mighty Kerrigan has fallen off in this draft compared to at the very beginning of the tournament. It's interesting.
I got a feeling we're going to see Psalm on Thrall. We've seen him on there before. I actually had the pleasure of talking about Thrall at length with him. So I know he's very comfortable on that hero and can definitely make plays. So I think that kind of fits into more of their comfort as opposed to going into somebody like Kerrigan. So it also lends to a little bit more, I think, survivability. When you look at somebody like Tyr and you look at the Sanctification, something like that, you can see the animation before it comes in. And there are some choke points, but the counterplay from Tyr, I think, is going to be crucial.
Sanctification timing versus that Sunder is always something that you have to watch out for when you're watching this matchup, just because it's so influential. Pretty much every team fight, you can say, did the Sanctification protect the Sunder targets? If no, Tyrell's team probably lost. If yes, Tyrell's team probably won. Because it's just two hugely impactful heroics that just happen to counter each other, depending on the timing.
I feel looking at Gale Force's side, there's so much on the board they could go with. I feel like they could easily go double a Nubarak and possibly go with a dive comp. You could be looking at that Sylvanas we talked about. You have to find ways to deal with the mosh pit.
Abathur?
Even Abathur, that is true.
Greymane Abathur's been locked out here every time before. They could definitely transition into an Abathur Greymane composition here.
We see the mines that could potentially be spread around the map. You get the, you can see the rotations, you can stay safe, and you can be a little bit more aggressive at times with Abathur.
And the glorious thing about Abathur on this map compared to almost every single one is that you can position yourself aggressively in a lane and not even be too far away from your side of the map as well. So, still good.
I don't know if I saw that coming.
Does anybody ever see the Tychus coming? At least I don't.
Surprise, Tychus.
Maybe I have a Tychus-shaped blind spot in my draft.
Maybe.
But he just doesn't seem to synergize well with the Tyrael Greymane here. I look at the Tyrael Greymane and I think, okay, I would like to kill the backline, please. Would you allow me to do that? And it's hard to say no to that. I mean, they're just so polite, that Tyrael getting in there with the Sanctification, saying, this is my area, I'm going to kill your backline, and the Tychus just wants to shoot the people in front of him.
Well, Crowan says hello.
This is apparently the T-name draft. Tyrael, Tychus, Tracer,
Are
OP.
you guys surprised at all that Kill Thas just doesn't exist right now?
You say that, but Murloc Geniuses is about to pick him.
They're going to go double mage, you think?
No, probably not, but it would have been really cool if they locked it in right when I said that.
that would be the only good thing about it.
That would be like, we're rehiring you, Dunk, at that point. But well.
I wonder if we might see something. I don't think I've seen it from Murloc Geniuses, but some of the counter picks that we've seen towards the diving Greymane or potentially Tracer is something, and maybe not necessarily for Tracer, but Azul. I mean, they need to have some type of map control, maybe some frontline control. Else, I think we're going to be looking at another double warrior. Or what is happening here?
Europe!
Lily is basically Gale Thas. I mean, come on.
Leaving is basically Gale. They're actually close in the alphabet as well.
Wait, are you ready? Are you ready for the Water Dragon? Are you ready for the glorious Water Dragon?
If Tracer gets hit by the Water Dragon, she's going to get destroyed.
Does it if she recalls, though, doesn't it cleanse her of the slow and everything like that?
Yeah, it does.
So it does cause kind of problems, but then you can blow her up, maybe.
We're going to put Crowan to the test, I guess. Crowan, are you actually the best assassin in A? It looks like Murloc Geniuses has the toughest test. Double support into this. I mean, I take everything that we said, throw it out the window, and you have Lily. That's what we're looking at right now.
Lily is the we threw everything away, pick a random hero, it's an emergency, Lily comes out. We have seen Lily shut down assassins, to be fair. We've seen it shut down in Illidan, we've seen it used to success in EU.
Yes.
Now the question is whether it will be enough to interrupt that Tracer.
When we look at the builds, do we tend to go more of the blind build? Is that what we're going to be looking at? You've got Tychus, you've got Tracer on that backside, Greymane potentially diving. Are we building more towards that and leaving the heals to Uther?
I'm not the Lily expert. I have no clue.
All the supports but Lily? Come on, Doug.
Yeah, all the supports but Lily.
I'm hoping that Lily takes the Blinding Talent level 4, because then against a team that is very heavily auto-attack focused,
that's a lot of targets.
Blinding 4 instead of 2, maybe the duration as well. This could be significantly impactful, right?
I just wonder who's going to be playing the Lily.
That is a tough question, actually.
I mean, I look at the heroes that they have there. Obviously, we'll probably see June on Uther, I would assume.
Yes.
But the flexibility of the other heroes, is that going to be somebody like Cawthon Luck, as Dread would suggest, to be on that Lily?
Cawthon's the most likely target since, oh, let's see if
There he is.
Dread is correct, does call out the Cawthon Luck Lily.
All right, whoa. I normally ask the question, who's going to be your playmaker? But let's be honest. Everyone knows who it's going to be.
Lily?
Panda? Panda? I love Panda Express. Let's go, boys.
What's Pander?
Panda? Oh, no. Here we go. Just racking on my accent. I can't believe it. This is the grand finals. Don't do that. All right, Murloc Geniuses going up against Gale Force eSports. Game number 4 here as we get into Towers of Doom. Is it Lily time, or does Gale Force eSports run for the win? We're heading over to Gillyweed and Dread.
Dread, your Murloc Geniuses. Your tournament life is on the line. You have to pull out all the stops. What's your secret weapon?
Are you ready for adventure?
I'm ready for adventure. It's Lily time. Murloc Geniuses is going to use the small panda to try to bring us to game number 5 in this grand finals. Here we go. We'll see if the blinds are able to do it.
The blinds, are they going to be enough here, or is the water dragon? Already she's moved to a different build. This is the second Lily that we've seen so far. Instead, she's going to be going with the Gale Force. How beautifully titled that is. Where she's going to have the increased damage from the winds rather than more of that serpent style that we've seen in the last time that Lily's shown her presence here. It will do a very good job of denying Crowan, but I think that the Tychus sustained DPS may be enough here as long as the positioning is very passive and Crowan doesn't overextend too hard and get denied kills. I really still like Gale Force's comp.
There are a lot of heroes that can be hit by it though too. You talked about Tracer and Tychus, but there's also Greymane. You want to rely on his Curse of the Worgen damage. If he goes in and wants to try to go with that, maybe the blinds will be just enough to buy time to lock him down and take him out. But of course, there's always a Sanctification as well as Ancestral Healing to keep that target alive.
Yeah, and the rotations here, the 1-4, actually Mike Udall is getting zoned into upper lane just because he pushed so far. Cattle is doing a very good job. That denial of experience while they're losing the 4-man is a very big play here. And we see the response is actually Udall's going to come down. Saw him under a bit of pressure, and he's not even going to move in there aggressively. Gale Force eSports posturing around, trying to play a bit more passive here in the fourth game.
The pulse bomb not sticking anybody just yet, but of course we have seen Crowan be able to do that many a time in his days on Tracer, if you will. But we are going to be very soon starting that first Ultra Phase, which will of course be the triple Ultra Phase. The first and fifth have all 3, and this is the beauty of Towers of Doom, is the decision making when things come in.
Top lane, they're waiting patiently. Cattle, if he makes that rotation, he's got 15 seconds before it's going to spawn. Everybody else is postured on the bottom half here, looking like they've shown the aggression. Now that he's overextended a bit too far, Crowan goes aggressively. Cattle is now on the retreat. I don't know if he's got the survivability. He falls down at perfect timing here for the triple shrine phase. Expect GFE to at least get 2 out of the 3.
15 seconds, 10 seconds until he's back up. Tyrael channeling 1. They've got Rhaegar on another. Lily has the blind. She's going to try to stop them here, and they've traded out their 2. Nothing has been capped yet. Fury coming in. Cattle is back up and starting to run down, as is Greymane. He's not here either, so this should be where both come in, as long as they don't lose anybody right here.
Yeah, and that was not fast enough to get the shot, so we do see Cattle is going to make the rotation here. It's going to be 5 versus 5. Bomb was just recently used, meaning that Crowan's trying to set it up. 52% here. Beacon's very, very low. No resources going to be put into him. He's going to have to reactivate if he gets the delay. Raffle gets the nade out. Udall is posturing very deep with Crowan here as they poke onto this back line. It's anybody's trip or a cap at this point as they move on to Fury with that smite.
Michael is using the splash damage of Gilney and Cocktail to once again be able to stall this out. And now it's Gale Force starting the cap. Sam has picked Triumvirate, so he can, as long as he hits those orbs at back range, have a lot of ability to stop these. Fury with a beautiful 2-man power slide. BK getting so low, but Compton will be the first to fall here. Lily is no more, and Fury the second to drop.
Yeah, very good aggression there, even with the bomb missing once again the sticky bomb from Tracer, and Crowan miss again, and they still were able to get the kill. That makes me afraid of the future of Murloc Genius's tournament life. That the fact that we've seen him not hit his major early game DPS, one of the advantages that he gets is that he has just such a significant burst and sustained DPS there into the Lili. And honestly, Lili's one of the better early game heroes. Like, she does very well when it comes to her DPS and denial, and she does scale as well. But the fact that Crowan is already wreaking havoc, it just can't feel good if you're on Murlocs right now.
Yeah, the secret weapon isn't working out the way intended. Also at level 4, continuing on with the Blinding Wind by getting Mass Vortex, that will hit more targets. So they are just hoping for mass blinds long enough for Li Ming to burst somebody down along with Thrall, take them out, start to get resets, and then snowball from there. They do, of course, have the potential to, once they get to 10, of getting a big mosh pit. But, of course, we've seen that that is not always the best thing to have to rely on, as there's a lot of ways of getting people out of that.
So you're telling me relying on 120-second cooldown on my teammates is not the way to win the game?
Probably should have a backup plan.
Okay, well, apparently I don't know anything about the video game here. Gale Force eSports, a 4-man, 1-4 is very norm here. They do have the half-level lead. They've gotten a structural advantage on the bottom half by obtaining the saplings here, but just keeping this tempo up for them is really all that matters because they will be winning that spike. And something on Towers of Doom is not always winning the shots is really that big of a problem. Like, if the shots health was reversed and the XP was even, really Gale Force would be in a pretty spot. It's more about how much shots you can deny in the future. Crowan going in, hitting the bomb, and he's going to get the kill. Gosh, this kid just Crowan things all day.
Cattle, Blue, so far up in the air, and again, at a perfect time, Gale Force can gank Thrall. He is not going to be up for a few seconds. We have 18 seconds until the altar. He'll be back, but Gale Force can start moving down and try to use that advantage to get a better position around this altar. There's a couple of tough, tight spots to try to filter in to this particular altar. And if they can set up in a good way there, Murloc Geniuses could have a heck of a time actually getting to the altar.
Yeah, 1-level lead here for Gale Force. A shot advantage as well, having the 4 health onto the core. They're posturing around. Crowan needs to be able to get a flank here. A Horb is going to be dropped or dodged as well. You see him trying to get the harass as best they can. Raffle already ripping into Fury with that percentile max health. Akka is going to get the channel. Leadley coming in. BK taking a lot of damage. He's going to be zoned out here. The team now moving in as he backs out. Crowan trying to get harass onto Cawthon. Finally, he's being able to deal with those traits. Leadley showing maybe why she might be the pickup here for Murlocs, but right now it is not pretty, the dance here as it continues. Gale Force is closer and closer to 10.
It's an amazing job by Gale Force that when Tyrael starts taking health, Crowan and Michael Udall pressure the back line so that Murloc Geniuses have to back out to deal with it. Here they once again are going to find Michael Udall though, and that will change things. They get a kill on Greymane. June gets hit by the pulse bomb but has enough health to sustain through it. And with that, they force BK to jump to Eldruin's Might, and Murloc Geniuses will pick up an altar and tie up for health.
I have been surprised, although, I mean, BK is debatably the best, if not one of the best Tyraels that we've seen so far in this tournament. This is about the 3rd or 4th time in the early game that I've seen him not almost suicide his positioning into his opponents in the early game skirmishes, because Tyrael's passive is just ridiculous amount of DPS that it outputs early. And when you put yourself, posture your position to where your opponents can't ignore you and you die, especially with that new level 1 having the even in death, doing that 25% more damage, you can turn fights like that. And he's running away a lot of the times where, and then Greymane's going to be the one who sacrifices his soul, right? It just feels much like Leoric in those early half of the games. I'd like to see B-Kid giving up his own life for his team rather than the other way around, because he can gain so much value in death.
Yeah, you see that with really good Tyrael players, especially in the Asian scene, right?
Yeah.
Not being afraid to die, but understanding what, Tracer gets picked here as Murloc Geniuses had their heroic, or just were about to get their heroic abilities. But yeah, you see that from good Tracer players, is the ability, or Tyrael players, to do that, to sacrifice yourself, and even though you might be the first to die, you bring down health bars so much from everyone running away from it that your team can still win the fight from that. So we'll see if B-Kid wants to change his mind with that, but now he has Sanctification. All the other heroics are here too. Nothing strange, except maybe Jug of 1,000 Cups, as we were expecting Water Dragon.
That's putting a lot of faith in Li Ming and Thrall. If Thrall is not efficient in his engagement, as we say that, actually Fury looks to get one. If Thrall's not very efficient in his engagement or a huge mosh pit here, the time that Lili's going to be able to buy will help them a bit when it comes to the shrines, but I really do think that the sanctification hard engage is going to be a better play here. I am surprised that we haven't seen the Water Dragon for Cawthon, but we'll see if it works out.
I wonder if it was a panic pick, because he got it and instantly used it. BK gets caught here. Beautiful power slide with the Feral Spirit to follow up. Here he comes with the damage. Jumping in on June only hits him. Great spread from Murloc Geniuses, but no Tyrael here. An integral part to the heavy engage composition for Gale Force as we start. Fury goes for, it's a beautiful cleanse. They don't get the mosh pit, but they will still Hammer of Justice hit Rafflecopter. He gets healed up by the Ancestral Healing. They're still trying to go for this fight. 4v5. Crowin does not take down Som. Divine Shield from June, so clutch to keep him alive.
That was a lot of resources to keep one hero alive in this situation. Gale Force is still on the back foot. This power slide onto the Tychus here as Raffle tries to get away and somehow does with 130 HP here. And now finally we do see that B-Kid has been brought back to life. Sanctification is available. Nobody's being able to get a channel on either side as he does manage to get the interrupt, and it looks like Gale Force is moving in bottom. Mike Udall has started the channel. It's zoning coming out from the Tracer. He gets the cap here because everyone on Murloc Geniuses moves back for a tap, and now they're getting aggressive. Cattle getting the bomb. They go for the throw. It's gonna get procced here. Sanctification is available as they look to get more. What just happened?
They pulled Murloc Geniuses into a fight. Murloc took out Tyrael, but still couldn't get the cap. This is Tracer's probably her best match. She's so good at being able to delay and deny. They had what maybe they thought they had the right split, but it didn't happen. Gale Force walking away with losing Tyrael at the beginning of that, delaying for so long that he came back, and then getting both altars.
I mean, the fact that they didn't at least go 1-for-1 is a major misplay from Murloc Geniuses. You had a large time frame to get an advantage, and you weren't able to use it. And to be fair, I feel like June may not understand the situation that he's in this double tank. If Jugs is popped, the last thing you want to be doing is using Jugs. You want to use, you want to be using Divine Shield. You want to use Divine Shield offensively in some way, shape, or form if you're going to be using Jugs defensively for Murloc Geniuses here. But with their creative composition, they are yet to really have a moment where it feels like they have had control in this possible final game here. Such a bold move for their tournament life to be on the line, and it doesn't look like it was that calculated. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe they've got, like, it's a scaling thing, you know?
They're like, wait for Kung Fu Hustle, dude.Ait for it.
Waiting until 20 is scary on
That's
any
a bad
map.
strat. Yeah,
it's scary.
No, you don't do that.
But it is towers, so there's no chance of them just running over your core. But still, getting back that far in core health, yes, there's always the potential of a comeback, but it puts so much pressure on you, especially in what could be your last game if you lose this.
Yeah, I very much agree with everything you have to say, but we are going to have a 13-13. Sapling's going to be started here for Mike Udall and Gale Force eSports as they have a 12-shot lead here when it comes to the core health and what looks like a convincing teamfight advantage. Crone has just been wreaking havoc over their opponents, and we already look at him trying to get the flank. He's going to get cut out. Fury, no cleanse is going to be there. The recall comes into play. Oh, he gets the double dash. He survives the situation. Tyrael heal comes into play, and now we have dropped the laser, getting the zone here as they move aggressively. They want to withdraw from this team fight because they know the laser's there. Crone is tapping, and Mike Udall is waiting to get a flank here. I think Gale Force is about to bait Murloc's very hard.
Drill is down. Murloc's, even though the members of Gale Force were protecting it, Murloc's could still bring it down. June was channeling, and in comes B-Kid with a smite to stop it again. They'll have to throw something else out. They're starting to zone. Fury goes in for a power slide. Rafflecopter in the back immediately turns on Som, but a big sundering separates them out. Recall allows Tracer to get back in. Sanctification used, but so was Jug of 1,000 Cups to heal back Murloc Geniuses.
Yeah, the Sunder was able to stop before Sanctification hit, and then after the Q, he used it later, but it really gained no value. It hit all 5 people, but negated no damage. And now we do see the pressure here going on to Mike Udall. He's not going to be able to get out of this quite yet. He loses his life there. One person now falling down. Crowin is not going to be able to help out either. They do lose these shots. Unless Cattle overextends here. B-Kid is moving very aggressively. Smite's going to hit the ground. Raffle is just walking away with that minigun, gaining the value. Crowin's trying to be annoying a little mosquito, and they gain another cap. I actually don't have words right now.
Rhaegar is currently channeling another altar. Murlocs have been pushed back 4v5 even after taking down Greymane. I don't know. They're scary.
Murloc, oh man, he throws out the bomb and just walks away here. He should have his recall available. It's actually on cooldown for 12 seconds. He's dead.
Recall into the team.
He's only got one dash left in a couple of seconds, and Crowan does end up falling down here. But the big misplay here is that Murloc Geniuses gets a moment where they have an advantage. And then they go, what if we just didn't cap with that time? What if we wanted to back out of the situation? Gale Force, or they go over-aggressive, right? One person overextends too far, takes too much damage, and then they do not have the resources available, even with a double support, to be able to get that cap. Gale Force eSports has been doing very well when it comes to the team fights and how it's played out here, but it feels like Murlocs are not really on the same page when it comes to what they need to be doing in these fights.
They also never used Mosh Pit in that. I guess just not really finding an opportunity where enough people were close together. There are a lot of opportunities to stop a Mosh for sure.
Yeah, it's not. I think a lot of it comes down to, who was it? Cattle in the last fight just overextends. Like, yes, they got the one man up and they all needed to move, but nobody was with him or on the same page here as they're moving and posturing towards the boss. But nobody was on the same page, so he lost so much health that it doesn't even matter if you have the double support. They need to go back. They need to tap. Meanwhile, Aka is going to go and get the channel. Everybody else is going to keep applying the pressure here. Much like the Leoric composition that we saw Gale Force run against Aventic, where they never used the downtime when they got the Leoric kills, and then everything turned. It feels like Murloc is making the same mistake here as we see once again the deadly triple shrine phase.
And Gale Force almost with the 16 talent advantage. Murloc Geniuses, though, are not far behind that. They have 15 seconds left to get in the position they want. Bottom looks like they want to forfeit this. They want to have the big fight up here in top, knowing that someone will probably be in bottom. They'll have a few seconds of time where they can try to take them out 5v4.
Yeah, and we see that Murloc Genius is moving it very aggressively. Raffle is on the bottom half, so this is 5 vs 4 for now. B-Kid will get the first delay. Mike Udall is actually going to back cap onto them. Nobody should make the rotation for now. You see Cattle moving. June gets the shot, so Raffle does, or excuse me, Mike was interrupted here, so he's in a tough spot. The dismount comes into play. Sanctification not gonna hit with the Ancestral coming out from Aka.
Michael Udall is safe. Aka face with the saves, and no 16 just yet for Murlocs. I got really scared of B-Kid. He has the potential to split the team if he gets a really big holy ground, and Fury is pinging that, trying to come back into the team to help out. Remember, they still have Mosh Pit. If he can find Gale Force grouped up, but Gale Force are ahead in core health. They're just going to back off. They're not going to risk it. Murlocs will pick up a second altar.
And we saw Gale Force was willing to try and take that fight for a short period of time, but with the amount of cooldowns burnt to keep Mike Udall alive, they decided to back out. Really heads up play, having the patience there, realizing that's one of the few fights that their opponents are probably going to get into even footing because they have so much threat when it comes to almost lethal potential, really. This game, because of how Towers of Doom works, it's no longer like opening up a win condition. I guess it is, but in a different way, and they had a very solid understanding that's the only time they're really gonna have that. Play it patient, back it out here, and we're gonna have to wait it out till the next fight. I like what they're doing.
It's funny how little focus has been placed on bell towers for the most part.
For Murlocs, it feels like.
Gale Force has got
Gale Force
one.
goes, let's start a skirmish. And it's like, oh, we're losing it, run away. And then Murlocs is like, let's keep battling. And then they're like, guys, what guys? They still haven't gotten the shrine. Like, don't tell them. Shh, we got this.
No, I mean, sorry, bell towers, though. Like, we
on the towers, that's true.
One bell tower, but other than that, it's been like, you get 3, we'll get 3. We're just going to fight it out. We're going to duke it out around the altars, and that's been favoring Gale Force so far. It's half. Murloc Genius's core is half the health of Gale Force. They are running out of time and altars that they can just give up for free, so they definitely need to make sure that they're getting experience and catching up, not letting Gale Force get to 21st.
I think a lot of that comes down to just the compositions that we see in play. Oh my goodness, Gale Force eSports start the boss. They do not have Rafflecopter with them yet. They end up backing out here because they realize it's sketchy. Murloc Geniuses saw the health. They know that it was started and we're considering it, as we do see 2 more shrines spawning. Raffle is making the transition. And Udall getting a decent amount of damage. Fury's going to end up missing the power side there. Aggro will go out. Not going to do any damage. I think chunks. So keep making sure if that thing gets aggroed, who it's hitting. Very crucial to the fight is Udall just walks away barely from that Feral Heart.
Felt the teeth off of the Feral Spirit there, but didn't catch Michael Udall. They're definitely looking for it. Fury's still zoning people away from this while the rest try to hit them. B-Kid separating the members of Murloc Geniuses with Holy Ground, but now it is done, and Raffle has taken damage. Fury trying to push him back to the team. Clint's used to keep him alive and in the game, but B-Kid himself has taken damage. The Sunder comes in. Tygus is down. There's the Sanctification just in the nick of time. Ancestral can only heal 1 up, though Tyrael has been taken out. The 2-man mosh pit. 2 drop. Only Tracer lives in this fight.
And that is going to be a 4 for nothing here. Murloc Geniuses. What was a rough game for them has suddenly turned the tides here, as they are going to question whether or not they're going to get the first channel. They're making the smart choice here. They're backing out, worrying about getting the structures first. To be
This is taking a while, though.
This is actually really slow in the decision making that they decided to go with. They aren't even going to get it in the first place. They're only going to get a cap. So, all right, so they decided they want to go mid. They want to get the value here. They're going to double up the value of each one of these, right? It's going to be 5 and 5. So now they're going to have 10 shots going in. They're going to be able to tie up the game. But if this was done a bit more efficiently, they should have been able to tie up the game with both the shots and a boss at the same time. So a bit slow of reaction here from Murlocs. Or in worst case here, they could have taken the shots or taken boss and then leave the bell tower alive. Either way, they were not moving in the same direction at the same time. They didn't really understand what they wanted to do here. And for the first time, we've seen focus onto the bell towers.
Well, it is 12 to 14, so they didn't tie it up, but they got it a lot closer than where it was, and they've distracted Gale Force for the immediate future. They have to deal with this bell tower, and that is allowing Murlocs to focus on another bell tower. This top one has already been taken down in some health. They get these pumpkin sappers, they help clear the wave too, so that these potentially can move on to that bell tower. They want to force that back and forth, where Gale Force is on the back foot, but Gale Force, they also have a bell tower they can take. That bottom one for Murlocs is equally low, and they can get these pumpkins. So Murlocs may be looking for the fight, but they don't have 20 yet. They want to get that advantage before they find a fight.
So they're going to try and escort these in with Rafflecopter to secure this bell tower for their team, finally giving them an upper hand. When it comes to that, 20 tier is almost going to be picked up. Are they going to be able to? No! All right, so 2 of those are going to be, I thought they were going to try and escort them in possibly, or get more pressure elsewhere onto the map. Boss is still left up here because Murlocs maybe didn't completely capitalize. The 2 shots on bottom, they know their opponents have to clear, so they end up starting it. When it comes to boss control, Sundering is available currently with Bolt. Holy Ground is an option as well. Sanctification is up. This is such a risky play, and they end up backing out, and Cawthon just goes, what if we take it?
Okay, so they've started it, but B-Kid's going to check. There's Eldruin.
Yeah,
so they see it. They don't have 20, though. They don't have 20 for this. They just have to give it up. There's no Eldruin. They're not even going to try to get it.
Wow.
That's another few shots for Murloc Geniuses.
It is, and they end up getting the bell tower here. It won't spawn for a couple more seconds. They have a bell tower advantage, which is the only real silver lining here for Gale Force after having a struggle in that last team fight. I don't think either team's going to be able to win when it comes to out-rotating their opponents too much. Just, it's going to be a brawl. Largely because neither has a heavy sieging composition. And as these spawn, Gilly, this could be game ending. Could be. They're putting enough momentum where they get the advantage on bottom. B-Kid is now getting pressure under the bottom half. Holy Ground comes into play, and they're going to be rotating up 20 to 20 here. 1 game away. Gale Force eSports having the team fight of potentially their careers right now.
They're going in. Fury starts the power slide in. Crowan takes some damage, and they're looking for this. Cattle has come back up. No Sundering has been used yet. Neither the Mosh Pit. Cattle being forced out of that, and there comes the Sundering, but Cattle gets hit so hard by a pulse bomb. B-Kid pushed back into the team. Hardened Shield comes out. Everyone's safe. Rafflecopter getting healed back up, even using Ancestral just to keep him alive.
Raffle is so isolated, and that's going to be a one-man Mosh Pit. The Holy Ground is not going to get into isolation here, so he goes in and ends up dying here. It's going to get a little bit of zone. The repulsion there is going to give him another reset. 3 people are already dead. Akabase is trying to withdraw. Both of these are only going to give 3 shots for the current state of the game. Raffle is just trying to make sure he does not go down. Akka is doing his best. The body block's not going to happen here. So let's see, what can we see happen here from Murloc Geniuses? They need 10 shots onto the core. This is only going to give them 3. Raffle, that was not a risk he needed to take there. Losing his life, a staggered death now, 30 seconds difference between him and the rest of his team, as they now have breathing room to move down, secure the bottom bell tower, and then get the shots here. So 8 shots are what they could apply to the core.
But Akka's still up, and they've only left June.
That's a 1v1 that Rhaegar wins all day until Uther comes back to life, and then you're like, yo, that's hacks.
Well, he's going to try for it anyway. He's ready to take him down. Cawthon will come in to help. Freshly healed Cawthon. So now 2 supports versus 1 and 1 tank. They've gotten the bell tower back. They're going to start to try to channel this. A second until Tyrael pops back up, and Greymane's here too. The channel will start. There's another ability to channel, and that is moving things ever closer to a game number 5.
And I think a major problem here is B-Kid's yet to even use, it feels like, Sanctification. Udall going in aggressive, both going out of the wall. Cattle dancing with that there. Maybe a little bit of cow tipping because he was almost caught sleeping.
He was not, though. He had Bolt. He got back over. He's safe. It's all fine. They're like, you can have these if it's that bad. You can have these. And this will start to run into the bell tower in bottom. They just got this back.
If Gale Force manages to fight away from the actual bell tower itself, this is a fight that they want. They don't want to take a fight when the shrines are going to be spawning because it risks really bad positioning because they cannot let their opponents get a channel, which is going to lead to bad rotations. If they can get this open area fight, plus the sundering coming out from Cattle in those chokeholds is legitimately won them almost every single team fight here. So the bait on the side of this for Gale Force is huge. You see Udall, the patience he's showing, but it doesn't look like Murlocs are going to take the bait quite yet.
Want to see if they can pull people back into this bell tower, into the safety of slowing down their opponents, but that's just not going to be the case. Fury watching to see if anyone oversteps their bounds. They are so close to tying this series up, Dread. They are 2 core health away from that, and they found somebody. They blow up Michael.
And the Sundering coming in, splitting Rafflecopter. Crone is going to be trying to dash out as well, so only one person is going to be dying. There are no shots available on the map at all until the shrines come up, which should be pretty soon here. 50 seconds dead for Mike Udall there. Oh, but he gets the Bolt. Mosh here coming on to Aquaphase. Nobody's going to be able to keep him alive. They get the Sanctification. A bit panic, stacking a lot of heroics there. Beacon actually is body blocked by his own team's laser here. He can't even get out of the situation as they go aggressively. Ancestral is going to be forced, and now they are moving in, and what was a very ugly start to this fight. Gale Force eSports is now just grasping at anything they can for a chance to not lose this game.
That is so many heroics they needed for this fight. Yes, Mosh and Sundering, and even Jug of 1,000 Cups was used, but there is still so much damage, and it's a 3v5, a 4v5 now, as they have only one member left to respawn. 9 seconds until Greymane is back in action. Crowan doing everything he can to try to stop this. He gets caught by Fury. He recalls barely to safety. Cattle has caught Rafflecopter. He doesn't take him out, but everyone is low from Gale Force. June is starting the channel. Is this game number 5?
Yeah, Crowan now under pressure. BK, the Leeming reset is going to happen here as he falls down. Tyrael is going with him. Greymane coming back to life, but it's not going to matter. Murloc Geniuses managed to pull it back here 2-2 and going to go to game number 5, where we're going to find out which team is going to be the first to be able to qualify for BlizzCon. What an absolutely ridiculous series here we have, ladies and gentlemen.
Dread, think how amazing Murloc Geniuses has to be feeling at this moment. They have June, who is its first LAN, Som, who has just now made it to the grand finals, and let's talk about the other 3. The furthest we've ever seen them get, with maybe the exception, of course, of Fury when he was on Gale Force. And Fury tying it up with his old team, proving that he is doing just fine here. We are so close. Both of these teams now 1 game away from BlizzCon.
Gale Force eSports, man, their mentality right now has to be a little confused. First in Ventic, it was working so well for Crowan, the Tracer. Now it seems to be a really bad spot, but we're going to be going to a break, guys. When we come back, we will have the last game here to figure out which team will represent North America at BlizzCon.
Qualifying for BlizzCon and winning this event would mean a lot to me. Since day one, man, our whole team's just been talking about BlizzCon. That's what we want. Winning BlizzCon, that's the goal. That's what I want, and this is a stepping stone to get there.
If we win this, it means that we've made it to BlizzCon. We have months to prep for it.
Getting #1 seed for going into BlizzCon makes you top 8 already, so that's a huge thing. And not just that, you don't have any stress coming into PAX.
If we were to win and qualify for BlizzCon, it would be a huge deal for us, especially as a team being newly formed within 2 to 3 weeks.
Going to BlizzCon would just be a dream come true. It's something I've always wanted to do, not only just as a player, but just the venue is amazing. So going there and especially competing in there would literally just be a dream come true for me.
Only the first place is going to qualify for BlizzCon, and yeah, nothing else other than first will leave us fulfilled. Everyone on the team wants to be the best in the world. We want a shot to prove that we can try and challenge the Koreans, the Chinese. That's why I play the game. I want to be the best. It's extremely important to me.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Heroes of the Storm Fall Regional here for North America. As it seems that Lily, she was on adventures, she found that Pearl of Pandaria and is on the 100% win rate hype train. I cannot believe 2-0 at the moment. Well done, Lily. Good job, Murloc Geniuses. They force it to a game number 5, and what a game that was in game 4.
There were so many plays made. We saw Crowan make a lot of the plays early. I mean, the lead in that game, Doug, was unreal. And then coming all the way back was Murloc Geniuses.
Murloc Geniuses fell so far behind in the early and mid game. I was scared for them. I thought it was hopeless. But they sacrificed enough core hit points that they managed to get back into the game on experience and finally start turning some of these fights around.
I mean, the fact that we saw Gale Force be so aggressive, it almost seemed like towards the end of the game, they started to fall apart. The cohesion wasn't there. We saw a lot of weird Eldruins come out. The timing was a little bit off. The sanctifications weren't there. The pickoffs onto people like Michael Udall, it seemed like things really started to just fall apart one by one.
One by one is right, Jay Howe. The story of the game has to be cattle on that brawl. There were so many clean sunders and so many times that he just caught someone face checking a brush or walking into his team and he just wailed on them with Wind Fury and got an insurmountable HP lead in the fight.
Are you sure it wasn't the Lili that might have done it? That double support, it seemed to work at times. When things got a little bit questionable, all of a sudden Jugs came out. It's just like, wait a minute, Murloc Geniuses just turned and they pounced on Gale Force eSports. I'm not sure if that's the new meta, but it worked right there.
Yes, it did. It was interesting to watch. And actually, Gillyweed mentioned in the game that I was wondering as to whether or not the Jugs was actually just a reactionary move, because once they hit 10, instantly taken and instantly popped when she was under threat down towards that bottom lane. Of course, Dragon would have been cool, but regardless, the Jugs seemed to work out, so that's okay. Still, the 100% win rate continues.
Jugs did an excellent job actually mitigating the limited damage coming from GFE. The thing about Tracer, yeah, she has amazing front-loaded damage, but if you don't get that kill, she struggles. And Lili really capitalized on that, because you would see a big fight, and then everyone would kind of disengage while the Jugs go off, and suddenly Murloc is back at 100% HP across the board, and GFE's like struggling to recoup.
It was definitely an interesting dynamic as it got later on. I mean, that's what Greymane is there for, to finish off what Tracer can't do. It just seems like they were able to ward it off. We saw the stuns. We saw a lot coming out from Uther there. So the double support, I think, lended a lot to what they were able to accomplish, especially late game.
Yeah, they massively outwon that sustain war, for sure, going into that. Of course, make sure to join us on Twitter with the hashtag HGC, and also tweet us who you think is going to be winning this next series, and this next game even, I should say, and thus the entire series, and moving on to BlizzCon, because we are down to the wire. It is 2-2. You should spread the word. Spread the word. Tell your friends to tune in as well, because this series just got a whole lot hype. A Game 5 on the way, and I'm pretty sure once again, somehow, someway, GFE forces it onto Blackheart's Bay. Every single time they come down to a Game 5, we happen to end up on Blackheart's Bay, which just so happens to be a really good map for them.
It's a really good map, and we've seen different playstyles from them. We saw them earlier.
Yeah.
Illidan Tracer. We've seen a lot of Tracer. Are they going to put their eggs in the Tracer basket? We're about to find out, but Murloc Geniuses recognizes part of that composition was Illidan, taking Illidan off the board.
First pick Zagara for Kothan luck here. Is that what we're about to see?
I would be almost surprised not to, now that they have the opportunity. I think Zagara does well on this map in so many ways, but Murloc Geniuses recognizes that Gale Force is going to have their own strategy. Are they playing into what they want, or are they playing against what Gale Force might be trying to do?
Murloc Genius is taking a long time to lock that in. We knew it was coming, but they had to hold off. Is Gale Force baiting me into a trap? Is this Zagara pick a mistake? You have to use all of the time allotted to you in draft so you make sure you don't walk blindly into those mistakes.
Interesting thing to note is that in the previous game Gale Force eSports played on this map, they banned out Zul first, which has been more of an uncommon first ban throughout the tournament. So what do you make of the fact that they've let that through this time around?
I think Zul is one of those heroes that tends to lead towards a lot of strong rotations on this map. He gains a lot of control. It also lends towards a potential Asmodee. I don't think that's what we're going to see, but the fact that it now opens up the door for Falstad as well, I think that's great. We talk about this map a lot of times being one of the tallest maps from top to bottom, and there's that huge void in the middle that you have to go around. Falstad negates a lot of that, and he tends to lean towards a little bit of map control, I think, on this map in particular.
Absolutely. Falstad also very important in their last victory on Blackheart's Bay. He was really, really influential, as he has been in most of these games, honestly, with that just
backbreaking,
Yeah, the
messing
gust,
with the position of teams.
It went right into like the Entomb, followed up right after. I wonder if we're going to be seeing something similar. I'm just curious. Obviously, if we see a little bit more traditional out of Gale Force, Li Ming, is it going to make it through? Is Murloc Geniuses going to pick it up? And if it does, then what type of strategy comes out? There's so much at stake right now. We've seen a lot of crazy picks. We're in game number 5, Doug. And this is all on the table right now. Somebody's going to take it, and they're going to feel really good going home. Somebody's about to feel real bad. And this draft right here is one of the crucial points. We talk about it so much. This draft is huge. They are taking their time. And Zul with Zagara. What do you make of this?
The Zul Zagara composition we saw in Tomb of the Spider Queen used to great effect by Naventic. This gives you so much PvE control during the early game especially, and I like that Murloc Geniuses picked this up because what it does is already starts to counteract the potential Azmodan strategy. Because that Zul puts so much pressure on, the Zagara puts so much pressure on, it makes it hard to stack that Azmodan, so they're already thinking ahead into what Gale Force might want to do in the draft and trying to counter it.
But surely in this regard now, Gale Force has to have something up their sleeves here. Li Ming's been taken away from Crowan, if that's anything to go by, and then even if they did go for a Tracer, like, there is still a lot to, of damage there that's going to have to kind of wiggle through anyway.
Tyrael's still open, very late in the draft for this set for Tyrael. That definitely has to be on Gale Force's radar, even though maybe not his best map since he doesn't contribute to the lane control. They need something to stay alive from the Zul Bone Prison Li Ming damage combo.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe a Sonya come out. Kerrigan's still on the board. Tyrael might also come into play, but Tyrael's going to be banned out by Gale Force itself. But when you look across the board, and the Sonya ban, I love it because you look across the board, you've got Zul. He's got ultimate lockdown. If Kerrigan decides to come in and dive in, here's a Bone Prison for you. That's a little less effective against Sonya with her level 4 Hurricane talent. So Sonya instantly taken off the board by Murloc Geniuses. I love that ban. That's a target towards Udall. I like it a lot.
Not only excellent in that Zul matchup, Sonya crushes him when they contest on the front lines, but also just a monster on this map. Can run around, collect all the coins, kill the bruiser camps, no problem, and you don't want to allow your opponents to be able to get that much of an advantage from just doing the PvE.
There's so much strategy involved in this draft alone. We have to find something for Udall. Will they be looking at a double warrior comp, or will they try and protect an aggressive comp? We're seeing the Leoric come back out. This, I don't know if it's something for this map in particular they like it, but this is now the second time they're running it. Tracer, are we going to see Tracer clears?
Oh, maybe. The thing is that even, like, we've seen Leoric and Uther together and causing extreme problems because, one of them dies and the other one comes back, and then there's a spirit, and then there's lots of spirits going on. But even Falstack couples up with it really nicely because even if he dies, he's kind of back in the fight very fast. If you need him to be, he can fly in and join anytime.
That strategy, though, the it doesn't really matter if I die and come back strategy, tends to suffer a little bit against Li Ming. If you give Li Ming that reset on your Leoric thinking, oh, this doesn't matter that much, and then just the follow-up gets more and more damage out, it can quickly turn the fight unwinnable even when your Leoric revives.
How many times have we seen ETC make it through this late in the draft? All weekend.
Not many.
This is, ETC still on the board. I'm not sure. I mean, they can pretty much go with whatever they want. I mean, they obviously need a support, and they need a warrior. Rhaegar's still on the board. It's a strong hero. We have seen June play Brightwing. I feel like Brightwing could lend to some mobility, but Rhaegar obviously is the strong choice, but their warrior pickup is going to be crucial.
Brightwing feels to me like we're worried about your Tracer, so we pick Brightwing, if that's what they go with. Rhaegar says to me, we're not worried about you picking Tracer and trying to kill Rhaegar in this composition. It won't work against us. So either way, seems possible. It's just a matter of how scared is Murloc Geniuses of that Tracer.
That's a great point. I mean, there's one pick left here for Gale Force eSports. I wonder if they held it, and that's why they went Tassadar, Leoric. There's still a lot they can choose from, but that could have been strategic. This could be playing into what they want.
Does it have to be Tracer?
It doesn't have to be. I think there's a lot they can choose.
I was thinking something really crazy, and I don't think it's going to happen, but I was thinking another melee assassin, but something out of the
Well, we are looking
Zeratul?
for something for Michael Udall to play.
Yeah.
Well, don't keep it to yourself. What were you thinking?
No. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
The Butcher?
The Butcher is what I was thinking.
The Butcher.
That was what I was thinking. It's ridiculous, but I mean,
You know, there's one of us up here who's one of his favorite heroes is the Butcher. And
Really?
I would not mind seeing the Butcher.
I don't think they'll do it, but
Murden being the pickup for Murloc Geniuses, Gale Force. I mean, guys, we haven't seen Kael'Thas, I don't think, in all 4 of the previous games. Is this an opportunity, or do they need to try and solidify that front line to help Leoric out, or is Tassadar enough to supplement Leoric's lack of somewhat survivability at times?
While Tassadar does help tank up Leoric, gets him a little more beefy, they really just need a target who can use those task shields to get effective damage. That's one of the things that happens when you pick a Tracer. Tracer gets effective damage from task shields. Illidan, Sonya, both banned out. They're both great with task shields. So Gale Force is kind of forced into that Tracer, because if all you have is tanks with your Tassadar, even if you put shields on them, they're not doing damage.
That's just, they are putting their hands in, or they're putting everything into Crowan's hands, I should say.
Crowan, take the wheel.
I mean, I'm not too adverse to that idea because he's really, really good and has proved that he's really, really good this tournament. So maybe that's a good strategy here. Let Crowan run with it. Huh?
I mean, Dunk called it, okay? If that was Brightwing, we might be looking at somebody else. The fact that they went Rhaegar lends to a possible, hey, we're going to hold this last pick since we have last pick, so maybe we'll lend that towards Tracer, and they did exactly just that. I think that was their strategy going in. I'm curious what their plan B would have been if it was Brightwing, unless they were just that confident going that entire time.
I mean, it could have been that they planned to kill Brightwing, I mean, go Tracer either way, because earlier in their matches, they played against Brightwing with that Tracer, so despite the polymorph, despite those tools, they were still, sure, we'll play Tracer into it. So maybe they were just, all right, we'll not show the Tracer because we don't think you play it, and maybe you'll make a mistake.
All right, guys, it's 2-2. The winner of this one match goes on to BlizzCon, and I have to ask you proper predictions from drafts going on through who is going to win this grand final, who is going to become our next North American champion.
The one thing I know is if Crowan is able to help his team pull out the victory, the man is an instant legend. My eyes are on him.
As much as you have faith in Crowan, Cotton Lux Zagara has looked unstoppable this entire event, and he is going to take command of the game and macro his way to victory.
We have 1-1. J-How going for Gale Force and Dunk going for Murloc Geniuses. It couldn't get more hype than this. It is 2-2 in the grand finals of the North American Fall Regional as we get into the final game here to decide who goes to BlizzCon. Gillyweed and Dread, take it away.
This is it, everybody. Game number 5, all the way to the last game of the grand finals for the first North American Fall Regional. Who is hyped out there? Everybody.
Yeah, and apparently when you ask the question, it's immoral to like clap. You know, it's a weird, awkward thing. They don't understand this dynamic. You're like, okay.
Well, I'm hyped, Dread.
I mean, I guess I don't even know. All right, so I talked about this a bit. The ridiculous amount of trust they have in Crowan right now.
Yeah.
Crowan win against Naventic and ruined with the Tracer. Then they try and pull it out against Murlocs. Have not had any sign of success. And then now, grand finals, BlizzCon ticket on the line, they're still like, we're putting Crowan on Tracer. It is just insane. And we'll see if he makes it worth it. I think they really need to prove that he's got what it takes. I'm not even taking away from him as a character or a player. It's just more of, does this character fit this playstyle in the meta as well as they think it does?
Oh man, it could not be much closer. The pull between these two, 55 to 45, with Gale Force fans being a little bit louder. But man, Murloc Geniuses have really put on a show here, as have Gale Force. Both of these teams really want this. Gale Force, of course, they've already been to one global championship, but they want to get to a second one, and they want to have that first seed.
If he ended up hitting that Q, Mike, he missed that Q, not getting the slow, wasn't able to confirm the kill. That would have been one dead bug there on the bottom half of the map, and they trade the chests here 5 for 5 when it comes to the coins so far into this match. It's very mirrored from what we saw with Naventic versus Gale Force eSports onto the map, where they send the Tracer and rotate to the bottom half, willing to take the free trade here. It's just whether or not that Leoric gains insane value like it did against Naventic in that top fight.
Zul is already a menace to Gale Force eSports. He can rotate between the two, and Gale Force are trying to stop him. They have 3 people in the top 2 lanes to just the one of Zul. They can hope to try to get a kill on him, a potential gank, but he's happy to just go back and forth, allow his skeletons to help drain the ammo extra, and Leoric just has to play follow the leader.
Yeah, meanwhile, everybody else just goes to the bottom half of the map, applies a ridiculous amount of pressure. And the first time this strategy actually came out, at least in North America, I think was Zuno played in SCL. He sent Leoric when he had better wave clear to just dedicate him only to the top lane and have 4-man push with the Sergeant Hammer. And it seems like the rest of North America has kind of picked it up as the most optimal way to play this map. And right for now, it feels like Murloc, they have complete control. They have the Zag for the solo. They have Zul in the rotations. I mean, when we were talking about the draft, my mind was blown that Zul got as far through the draft as it was because he's so good in those upper 2 lanes.
Well, he just frees up so many resources for the rest of your team. Crone's going to try to jump in here. That is Stick on June, who has 6 doubloons. This is pretty bad.
Really
they drop
big.
them. Michael's grabbing the doubloons.
But at what cost? Now we see Crowan loses 4. Akaface is not looking good. That is what was a 6-coin pickup here. The entire bank of Gale Force eSports has been robbed.
And by Murloc Geniuses, no less, especially Som getting the resets so early on. And meanwhile, Cattle and Rafflecopter, the age-old battle with Leoric here too. 2 versus 1, skeletons for days. And that will be the first turn-in of the game, going over to Murloc Geniuses.
A major difference from how we've seen this map played the first time that we see it to now is with the dominant upper half of the map, nobody's saving onto the coin. So that turn-in will hit a power spike for now for Murloc Geniuses, but they are not gaining the shot value that they potentially could if they were a bit more patient with this turn-in. And with having Zul, I honestly figured they would. Getting that 14-coin lead, Gale Force would take forever to be able to get the turn-in, and you're doing very well in your lanes. So personally, would have liked to see them be a bit more patient here.
Maybe the concern is something that you told me about, where Gale Force have some heroes who can just be so aggro, like Leoric, and if they win the fight and Murlocs are holding too many doubloons, then they're just giving them away. They'd rather have them off of their hands and then capitalize on Zul and Zagara as they start to take some of the structures down.
Yeah, it's a safe play. Again, it just all comes down to what you think you can be able to get away with, and obviously they're more on the fearful side than maybe I would have been in this style of composition. Leoric is trying to keep up with the Zul, but it's not enough here. Tracer trying to help out as well, but we know she's not the best wave clear. Even at 13, Zul is no match, or she is no match for the Zul.
Kettle is also going for a different kind of build. So far when we have seen Zuls, they've been focusing on backlash, and as fans suggested, it's because the Shade has been nerfed slightly, but in this instance, Leoric has a pretty slow auto attack speed, but his auto attacks do a lot of damage. If he knows that he is going to be up against B-Kid for a lot of this, he can use that to absorb some damage, make sure he can stay in lanes, and then focus on having both mana and health regen from raising his skeletons, so he never has to back.
And for now, we see the 4-man rotation working on taking out this fort front wall. This will help secure them level 10 here as the coins do sit. 5 are turned in for Murloc Geniuses, 7 sit in the bank, so confirming they have enough for another turn-in, while it's only 6 for Gale Force eSports here. And again, I'm just so afraid of this faith in Tracer when they haven't committed a large amount of their composition to map control. I think if Gale Force eSports wins this game, it is almost solely on the fact that Murloc Geniuses is overcommitting when they have Leoric.
All those mages slowing down. Beautiful plays from Murloc Geniuses to kill off one, but they do lose Rhaegar in the mid, so at least Gale Force have been able to get a kill.
That was a huge trade there now, allowing them to have that many coins as well in the bank, getting finally a response, it feels like, in a chain of, oh my goodness, a change of tone here in this game. Mike Udall has now got 9 coins onto him. Probably one of the better ones. You typically want to have your coins onto your backline just for the sense that you can zone heavily. Like if Leoric is having your coins onto you, the last thing that you want is like him to try and channel turn-in, because it's like, who's gonna zone? Tracer? So it's really nice that they have fallen onto Mike Udall here, a little bit calculated, a little bit luck perhaps, as they are just now about to hit their level 10.
Looking at heroic abilities, Nidus Network is the choice for Koth and Luck. Going back, we did see one Devouring Mob, but he's back to his comfort zone in being able to get those, spreading out the creeps so that he can start to split push. And as you were telling me, while the panel was still talking, oh, Cattle's gonna drop here, great Entomb. Maybe. He lasts for a long time. Here comes Murloc Geniuses. They're gonna try to turn this around, but everyone else is pretty far behind. Fury's just gonna have to dwarf us out, but as you were telling me, actually I can't remember the point I was gonna make.
It was about how Leoric is not doing as well as Zool is into this matchup, and that you're surprised at that, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's
This totally was my point.
No, yeah,
Thank you for
obviously,
reading my mind.
Yeah, the Leoric pick here so consistently. I feel like Gale Force is banking that Murloc makes a major mistake, and I don't think they will. I feel like they've gotten to the final map here. They have confidence in them. They've shown this early lead, and really it doesn't matter that much because so many coins sit on their side. It's such a PvE heavy map. You even see Udall making the fight down there, forcing the turn in.
They were wondering where he was going.
Oh, and nobody's going to be able to get the delay. June would have to overextend. They confirm another turn in here, and for the first time we see the counter response. How much value will that be able to get? Should be a fort here, and structurally a huge lead still on the side of Murloc Geniuses, but finally a little bit XP here for them.
I finally remember my point, and that's Nidus is very good on this battleground.
Wow.
You're letting me know that. Li Ming has already blown up, and that's great. No longer having to worry about resets, but these skeletal mages doing so work, slowing down the entire team of Gale Force eSports, even making Michael Udall use Mighty Gust just to get away from them.
That was an insane amount of damage there going out into the Li Ming, and you saw those skeletal mages almost solo crow in. If he ever isolates on those and where Zool's able to drop them to where they auto attack her, she can't really deal with them on her own too easily. So we'll see if that comes into play or is a factor at all into this matchup as the teams back out, look to get pressure and paint the map their team's colors respectively. When it comes to the coins, it's going to be sitting at 10 for both of the teams, 12 needed for the turn in on Gale Force, and only 14 here for Murloc Geniuses.
Murlocs have turn in 1 time extra, and as you can see, they do have a structural advantage. A level advantage too, but Gale Force are just about to get 13. They have Heroics available, Mighty Gust in 10. B-Kid trying to Wraithwalk back to his team, and they want to get 13 so they can maybe try to force this fight here.
Yeah, and this game, if it gets any farther in the favor of Murloc Geniuses, it's going to start hitting the point where you're going to see Cawthon just split pushing top, threatening a key front wall, forcing Gale Force to overreact to a team fight, and then using his global. It's a really unique dynamic that is yet to really, I feel like, be explored too thoroughly, just because that version of Zagara is a newer one that's becoming relevant. It's actually a huge flank onto Mike Udall. Gus coming out. He doesn't have barrel roll. It was canceled by the Stormbolt. He's dead. And now that is 7 coins going over here to Murloc Geniuses.
Raffle has been hit by the prison. He uses his dimensional shift to go away. He has prescience too. Shouldn't get away from that as the magic missiles come out. Som doesn't even teleport. He does jump in. He's going for the kill. Raffle barely escapes behind the gate. B-Kid won't be so lucky. He will drop 2 kills for Murloc Geniuses.
And the struggle here is not the fact that they lost 2 people into a team fight. That is, yes, it is grim, but the worst part is a majority of the coins sitting on the side of Gale Force eSports were just lost 7, and Crowan tried to get the turn in, wasn't able to do it in a reasonable amount of time. Getting the bomb damage off, but June is there to save him. Ancestral Force, Mike Udall now joining into the team fight, getting a lot of damage onto him, and are they going to be able to turn this huge force wall there from Rafflecopter as Cattle now coming into play, and Udall is 1 dead bird here, and they're making it worse and worse. D-Shield's going to be used. Tassadar Shield as well. 3 coins onto him. Akaface is not able to die. B-Kid trying to get the flank. He is Leoric, though. He'll be back soon. And while it was optimistic to see Mike Udall respond, it only lasted about 5 seconds before he was sent right back home.
And 12 seconds until he'll be back into the fight as chests spawn. Cawthon working on this top one, but not feeling so confident that he won't get ganked there as he's not sure of the positioning for Gale Force eSports. There is 1 still available bottom too. Murloc Geniuses were way more focused on just trying to turn in their doubloons to get a turn in. And with Leoric coming back up, Rhaegar drops, they steal him away.
That was ridiculous synergy there as well. That B-Kid held the entire Entomb onto the target, and then right after it drops, Raffle hit him with the force wall, was able to secure a kill for his team here, and a couple of coins as well, as they now have enough for their turn-in. But with only top mid-fort being the only thing dead on the side of Murloc Geniuses, having all 3 forts down, these turn-ins are not nearly as valuable as they are for their opponents. Now they're making the rotation, neglecting these 4 coins. All right, there we go. Mike's gonna pick them up. Somebody, please. All right, Mike's gonna pick them up, and now it looked like they were thinking about making a boss play here.
I think they were maybe worried that they were at it, potentially? I don't know, they at least checked it out, for sure. Not sure why. They do get the doubloons in the end. This will start to bring down the top fort. Giants have been picked up, so there's a nice split push happening in the bottom that Murlocs can hope to try to distract Gale Force from so that they can go further. Maybe even there's a Nidus around the bruisers in bottom where Zagara could go to help those along, but they're setting up around the turn-in point. They have 16 advantage. for just a smidgen of a second. And they can try to get a turn in with this finally, although Gale Force has been doing such a good job of annoying them and not letting them get it.
A lot of coins to be turned in here. Double the channel, no way to interrupt as well. Big damage going out onto BK. He managed to get it somehow. Falset is not in the fight, looking to try and get the 16 for his team, but everybody is already so low here. Pulse Bomb is available for Crowan as Cawthon just sits there and gets the channel as his team zones off. Very pretty position for him to be him as he is getting more shots here. No turrets on that mid keep, so I believe it should be able to get the entire keep, and if it doesn't, it's going to have enough to where you pretty much could look at it and it'll tumble.
I like the decision making from Murlocs there. They know that Gale Force is banking on a lot of times doing what they were before. They can just delay for a really long time using Leoric's ability to come back in the fight, as well as Tassadar, to go for these very long fights and eventually do enough damage to try to steal Murloc Genius's doubloons away. So they got a mercenary camp, so either way they were going to win that. As long as they didn't lose anybody at the turn-in point, either a lane would push with the mercenaries and start to do damage to structures, or they get a turn-in. In this case, it was the latter.
All right, so call me crazy.
Okay, crazy.
I already have the strategy I want to see Gale Force pull out.
Ready.
Send Tracer down to the turn-in and hide there by herself. Udall have a large amount of coins, and before they get enough for they get a turn-in, fake the boss, have Udall fly down, everybody will panic, they'll split, commit a resource to deny him the turn-in, and then Tracer goes and gets the solo 2v1. Think about it. I honestly think they have to make a big play with that. I don't know if they have a direct team fight composition to be able to deal with it. Tracer has to get these small skirmishes that she thrives in, or it seems like she's just getting bodied, even when babied by Divine Shield, Tassadar shields as well. I'm not too impressed so far with how it's played, so I want to see them manipulate the map to where Tracer gets in those positive situations.
Yeah, they're not out of it yet. They are a level behind, but still have their 16 talents, and they are definitely behind structurally. They've lost a keep, so that is the big downfall, but they need to try to slow this down. Again, gems are being turned in, doubloons even for Murloc Geniuses. They don't have enough, but they're still able to throw them in the bank, and that is something that Gale Force eSports just don't want. They want to be denying these. It's just not happening.
Yeah, and Crowan is putting a lot of DPS into Fury, and it's not really valuable DPS by any means. It's being dealt with rather quickly. Crowan does get the Prism put onto him. BK taking a lot of damage. Drain is not going to proc either. He has the Entomb, but he's running very, very low when it comes to the health. They aren't getting the Gust combo that they wanted and that we saw so effective here against Aventic as they dance back and forth. Tassadar shields are not keeping BK up. And if he goes down, that's going to be 2 coins again in the favor of their opponents, so letting them be within 3. We do see the combo going on to Cattle here. Fury with the response. They get the blow up that they want. The mage is now auto-attacking anybody. Haven't lost anything. Crowan, though, on the flank as a huge combo comes out from Saul.
He's on the flank, but Cawthon has no problem with that. They haven't taken anyone out, though. And Crowan is trying to run away, even picking up some of the doubloons as he does so. There's the slowdown. Oh, wave of force, and Tracer's down.
Yeah, Tracer ended up falling at this point. The bottom coins were lost here because of it. BK is now trying to withdraw a test. Top chest will be going in their favor. That is going to be a turn. And meanwhile, there have been catapults wailing onto the core, breaking towards the shield. Not going to get it quite yet, but this is great for Murloc Geniuses. They legitimately have almost nothing to worry about in this game with a 2-level lead and a ridiculous coin advantage and 87% on the core. They are just going to abuse their talent advantage. They're global, and they're just split sieging that macro play that, I mean, Dunk pointed out so thoroughly that Cawthon has just been dominating with. It accents this map, and Gale Force almost had no answer for it, it feels like.
Speaking of 20s, which are almost here for Murlocs, Cattle has been building into Spectral Scythe, getting flowing wounds for the reduction in cooldown timer, as well as Decrepify for slows. At 20, probably going to get Mortal Wound to go along with this, maybe, and that is really going to limit the options that Gale Force have, because the healing will be so significantly reduced, and there's a turn-in again.
They're going to take the boss, and their opponents are going to give it up for free. So what do you have to do in this situation? Leoric has to go and move with the boss and fake like they're feigning towards the core, because they could potentially backdoor at this point, and so Gale Force has to be afraid of that. Falstad has to back up and then worry about the keep and maybe look for the win condition with the boss, because if you don't get it with that boss, you're almost never going to get it unless you get a full wipe. I feel like Gale Force right now is going to lose the structures already on the opposite side of the map. I would have liked to see them make a big play with this, because again, it hasn't been doing well face rolling into your opponents. They have 20 advantage. You can't take the team fight. They're only going to get more and more turn-ins on you. Try and scare your opponents into something, because this turn-in is not going to stop.
Yeah, that is one more keep down. That's 2. The bottom one is in shambles, and there's a huge mercenary push. Murloc Geniuses are just trying to get the turn in here. They have
It's almost
enough.
game if they get it. It might be game even at that point if they do manage to get it, especially with that double giant. If those get more auto attacks, 3 to 4 auto attacks, 1 turn in, and this is game.
They're gonna try. There's Bone Spear picked up for Cattle for even more damage. They have to watch out for the Entomb, for the Mighty Gust. There's the Entomb. Mighty Gust to follow up. Cattle staying strong. Fury jumping right back into the action. Ancestral healing heals Cattle back up. Here it is. Murloc Genius is going for the fight. A huge wave of force. Leoric is down. There goes another. Tracer is in. That will be it. Michael Udall drops. This is it, Dread. Murloc Geniuses will be the North American champion, and they'll be the team representing North America at BlizzCon.
Very well deserved. Patient play, macro everywhere. These group of players have seen a lot of struggles recently. Fury being removed from Gale Force eSports. You see how happy they are. They've been through a lot, and they are the team who everybody said, all right, roster apocalypse of North America, who pulled out on top? We thought Denial. I mean, they literally got denied outside of the group stage. We thought maybe Naventic was going to be the one. Struggled in the semifinals. Gale Force eSports, maybe they were going to be it, but no. That team, in fact, is going to be Murloc Geniuses.
Murloc Geniuses, for so long, we have watched Cattle, we have watched Coffin, we have watched Fury in this scene, waiting to see who the missing links would be to bring this team into top tier of North America, and those links were June and Som coming in and making an unstoppable force. This grand finals was so close, but in the end, Murloc's able to clutch it out.
Just beautiful play from Murloc Geniuses everywhere on the map. I've been very impressed with them. I hope that the meta stays into their favor for the time being.
But here they are, your North American champions, and the second team to qualify for BlizzCon, Murloc Geniuses.
Out there, dude, coming. All right, guys, I'm joined on stage by the champions of the North American Fall Regional. I'm joined by Cotton Luck. First off, man, right after the win, you guys defeated the previous champs. How does it feel?
It's amazing. I never even been to a finals of an event this big before. And we were so happy just to make it. And then to take out such a great team like GFE, it's just unbelievable.
It was an incredible series all the way to Game 5. And now you guys will be representing North America at BlizzCon. What does that mean to you, and what does that mean to the rest of your team?
It means we can relax for a few days and play some new Diablo season before getting back on the grind.
All right, man. Well, sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, your North American Fall Regional Champions.
What a way to end the tournament here in Burbank, California, as Murloc Geniuses are able to cause upset after upset, one would say, throughout this tournament and bring themselves home this trophy, qualifying for BlizzCon. What a way to do it. It goes to all 5 games, and they killed Tracer over and over. I'm a happy guy.
I'm so happy that Murlocs will make their way to the Heroes of the Storm BlizzCon tournament yet again. Murlocs are just so amazing, and they just crushed it, man. I'm so happy.
I think about the storylines that are on that team. Fury was booted from Gale Force just after the Summer Global Championship. Caterpillar, former member, short time on Cloud9. June, his first ever tournament on the big stage.
Yeah.
You take home the championship. I mean, the storylines for that team are huge, and you talk about Cawthon there. You talked about he was basically the MVP. There was so much on the side of Murloc Geniuses, super impressive.
Right, of course. I mean, someone like Cawthon Luck, he's been in esports for a long time, and I can only imagine this is going to be one of the absolute highlights of his career. Taking this championship, moving on to BlizzCon. What a way. Short moments, guys, here before we wrap things up. What were your highlights of the tournament?
I think just looking at what Murloc Genius was able to pull off, you can't count out Vox and Nahili. The fact that they came in, showed what they showed. There's so much going on in the NA scene, and I love every single bit of it. It was a great weekend, Dunk.
Absolutely fantastic weekend. My highlights were probably the use of Sanctification on that Sky Temple game were so amazing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
glad that they pulled it out in the end.
And my highlight was sharing this couch with you, Dunk, all tournament long. It was a pleasure indeed. A huge thank you to everyone out there, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this tournament for the fall season for Heroes of the Storm in the North American Regional. Of course, the second one will be going on at the very start of September, as both of these teams have qualified, and Murloc Geniuses march on to BlizzCon as the second team to qualify along with Team Dignitas. A huge thank you for tuning in. We'll see you for more Heroes of the Storm action very, very soon.